Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chatham Select Board meeting of July 14th, 2026. Please let the record show we started promptly at 5:30 p.m. I'll read what I'm supposed to read. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can access the proceedings as provided for in that order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as is possible. First item of business this evening is to establish a quorum of the Select Board. I'll do so now by calling the roll. Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Nicastro.
Present.
Ms. Potash.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
And Mr. Dykens is present as well. Next item is our minutes of June 30th, 2026. A motion to...
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay. Any edits, comments, suggestions? Mr. Nicastro, anything there? Okay. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 7, relative to the police chief contract, these are all quite correct. I had an issue with removing the provision in the contract relative to dispute issues. I wanted to keep it like it was with the previous contracts. The board did not support that, but I do want to make it clear that I did support the appointment of Mr. Malzone to Chief of Police.
Okay. Good enough. Any other comments or edits or suggestions? Okay. All motion in a second. All those in favor? Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro.
Mr. Chairman, in light of Mr. Smith's comment, may I suggest we insert in the document a statement that the board unanimously, by consensus, supported the appointment? Is that true?
Certainly.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Nicastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And Mr. Dykens says aye as well. Next item of business are public announcements and agenda item requests. We've got a couple of announcements. We're going to start off with announcements. I know Jill Goldsmith has one very important one. And then Steve DeBoer will present the Independence Day Awards as well. Okay, so Jill Goldsmith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to ask Lieutenant Sarah Harris to join me at the podium. We got a really big trophy for you, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to announce that at the recommendation of Deputy Chief Lou Malzone, who, as you know, will become police chief next week, that I've appointed Lieutenant Sarah Harris as Deputy Police Chief effective July 23rd, 2026. This is really an exciting moment for us, as Sarah will be Chatham's first female Deputy Police Chief. So, congratulations. Thank you. I just want to give the public a little background on Lieutenant Harris. She's served as a member of the Chatham Police Department since 2000, when she joined the department as a patrol officer. She was promoted to detective in 2009 and to sergeant in 2010, before most recently being promoted to police lieutenant in 2024. Prior to her time in Chatham, Sarah was a member of the Worcester State University Police Department and the Bridgewater State University Police Department. During her 20-year career in Chatham, she has held almost every position and assignment within the department. In addition to being a police officer, she's been a detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and she has served as a court prosecutor, sexual assault investigator, department IT manager, criminal justice information services administrator, patrol commander, Citizens Police Academy instructor, and is the police department's representative to the CHU, which is the Chatham Elderly Working Group. Regionally, Lieutenant Harris has been a member of the Cape Cod Law Enforcement Council's Human Trafficking Enforcement Team. She holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in sociology from Westfield State University and a master's degree in criminal justice from Curry College. She is also a graduate of the Reserve Intermittent Massachusetts Police Academy, the Special State Police Academy, and the Massachusetts Police Training Committee Full-Time Academy, MPTC. She is a member of the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association and the Massachusetts Association of Women in Law Enforcement. Sarah's married and has raised 3 children, which she says has been her hardest job yet, but they are her pride and joy. A joint swearing-in committee will be held for Deputy Chief Malzone and Lieutenant Harris on Thursday, July 23rd at 10 a.m. in front of the police station, which is right next door, and there will be a small reception here. So please join me in congratulating Lieutenant Sarah Harris on her promotion to Deputy Police Chief.
Congratulations.
I'd just like to briefly thank Jill, the Select Board, the entire town for supporting me in the 26 years that I've worked here for the town of Chatham. It's been enjoyable. I plan on continuing to be on this journey to help everyone and anyone that I can along the way. Thank you, Kathy, for being the in-between to help me get to the Select Board, and to Jill to get everything that I need to them and bringing everything back to me. And I just support everything that the town needs and continue on this journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sarah. Wonderful to promote from within. Our next item is Mr. DeBoer is going to present our Independence Day Awards. What a great parade, Steve. You guys, the whole committee did a great job.
Well, thank you. It was a good parade. Maybe it could have been 10 degrees or so cooler. But it was a good day, and I just want to mention, we had a lot of help. There's 5 people on the committee, but there's a lot of people. There's town staff that help us. Corey is our liaison to the Select Board. Chief Anderson and Lieutenant Harris are, very enthusiastic and, helped us. I think they attended every meeting. There's just so many people, all of the emergency services and protecting the town and deploying their equipment where it had to be, the fire department. The DPW, who is, active before, during, and after the parade, and they're sort of the unsung heroes of what goes on. So I appreciate everybody's help, and it makes my job a little bit easier. So I appreciate it. So, without any further ado, we have some trophies or plaques to hand out. The first one is for the best business entry, and that goes to the Grateful Mug. So, come up. Come around. You want to come around over here?
Oh, sure. Keep walking, Denise. Go, go, go. Sorry. I should have practiced.
So here you go for 2026. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
The next award is for the Best Civic Entry, and it goes to someone who's helped us out, I think, in the past, the Witches on the Water.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, so he's 2026. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, congratulations. All right, the next one is for the Best Family Entry, and that's awarded to the Magner family. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, thank you, okay. Here we go. Okay, thank you. The next, I think, is a repeat winner for the funniest entry, and that goes to Candy Cane Pogo Dave. Is he not here? Oh, Dave's not here. I'll track him down. The next one is the most patriotic entry, and I think this is another repeat winner. The most patriotic award goes to Mudo Construction. Okay. The next one is for the best youth entry, and that is presented to the Pro Lynch family.
All right.
There you go. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're going to get into the overall awards. The third place overall plaque is awarded to the Chatham Marconi Maritime Center and RCA Wireless Museum. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here you go. If you want to stand up.
That was really good.
Okay. The next award is the second place overall, as selected by our judges, and that's awarded to the Chatham Municipal Airport.
Correct.
Alas, I've run out of plaques to hand out, so I think we'll
Oh, yeah.
have to present a trophy instead. It wouldn't be the 4th of July parade, I think, without the Phillips Farm family. Once again, have won best overall for their entry.
Congratulations.
Make sure I get it back. So that I guess that concludes 2026 Independence Day Parade. We already have a meeting scheduled for early in September for next year, so we'll get rolling pretty soon after the summer. Thank you very much. It was a great day.
Yeah, it was a great event, Steve. Thank you very much. Okay, we're still on public announcements and agenda item requests. I'll let the room clear a little bit here. Before we continue, Mr. Holgren, I'll recognize you.
John Harmon, South Chatham. I think this may be a combination of a sort of, public announcement, sort of agenda item request, simply
Okay.
because of, I believe some of the board may be aware as far as the incident that happened last Friday night at the band concert where there was enough music interference from the Wayside Inn so that the band was disrupted. And I personally was sitting typically at first, the beginning near the flagpole. I had trouble hearing the Chatham band because of the interference, the music. There was amplified guitar and vocals. By 8:15, I moved to the front of the restrooms because it was possibility of rain and to get away from that noise. During the silent period when nobody was speaking, the band was not playing, I could hear clearly lyrics from the Wayside Inn at that distance. I believe this is totally unacceptable. And having attended Chatham band concerts for probably 65 years, I'm not sure what can be done, but I know obviously I think they have to have permits to have amplified music, and it should be some limitation to make sure that at least during band concert time from 7:45 to 9:45 on Friday nights, that they pretty much just keep quiet. At 9:15 approximately, I went back to my original location. They had moved and what was happening was there was, in a tent behind the facility, they obviously had amplified speakers going on from there. That's why it was so loud. At 9:15 and afterwards, I went back and they had moved the music to basically inside the dining room, but they still had the back doors open. So you could still hear enough so I could hear music from them at the flagpole, even at that point, but it certainly was not distracting. Afterwards, at the concert, during the concert, the band leader, Tom Janke, had recognized Anita Harris, basically, and thanked her for apparently assistance. And I saw her come back into the bandstand. Apparently, she had gone over and talked to Wayside. And afterwards, I confirmed that and so on. And there was somebody else from the audience who apparently had been over the Wayside, and they had even called PD and I guess reported it also. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention and so on to see, because on Monday I contacted Ms. Lewis and to see if there was any, outstanding, authorization for their music. And I also backtracked the last year on select board agendas, and I didn't see any items there. So I'm not sure, what permit they have. If they have music on Friday nights, in the front of the Wayside Inn facing the street, that's one thing. But in the back, no, I don't think that's. And now I'm concerned also with the potential for any sort of interference with the Shakespeare in the Park that's going to be coming up. So obviously, Wayside Inn, apparently great business. I, love going there for Thanksgiving for the Council on Aging dinners and so on, but band comes first, and I just wanted to bring your attention and see what can be done, whether it be, instead of agenda items, to request to do some modifications of whatever permit they have or get them to have a permit. So that's all.
Well, thank you, John. It was brought to my attention. I know Anita went over and spoke to the general manager there, and he said, there's nothing I can do. And she said, yes, there is. You can shut this down now. We've been having a band concert every Friday night since 1932 in the summertime, so they did shut it down. So I think a follow-up with the Wayside is probably appropriate, and I see Shauna wants to speak as well, but it was clearly communicated then that they needed to shut it down, and they did.
Yeah, so the Shauna Neely, licensing agent, the Wayside Inn is not currently licensed for entertainment. And again, as we've had this conversation previously, that entertainment under the license is for the general public. So if they had a band in the tavern, they would need that. Wedding receptions as business of the inn doesn't require a permit, but I did contact Michelle Joyelle, who is the parent company's licensing guru. And we did have a conversation Monday morning, followed up today with some additional information for her about what is and isn't allowed. We had an internal meeting this afternoon, and we heard from the new general manager this afternoon. He was very apologetic. He understands the conflict. He said it was an oversight on their part, and is very committed to being a good neighbor. So I don't think we're going to have conflicts in the future, but we will be bringing them into compliance with an annual license shortly.
All right, Shauna, good. I'm glad you followed up and had a good conversation with them. That's great. Any other announcements from the public at this point? Announcements from the board at this point? I have a couple. Over the holiday weekend, everybody parties, but there was a party on North Beach where the folks that partied left a mess. This is North Beach Island, not North Beach, North Beach Island. And my friends went over, including my daughter, and cleaned it up. And I want to publicly thank Graham Milley because they put a note out on Facebook. And Graham came in his boat and gathered, there were bags and bags and bags of trash, towels, cans, food, trash, just strewed everywhere. So they cleaned it up, put it in bags, and Graham brought it back to the fish pier. So publicly, I'm thanking Graham Milley and the folks that volunteered. They were just going to the beach. They volunteered. It took them, an hour and a half, 2 hours to clean it up. It was disgusting. So the other message there is, we have some of the most, that's arguably the most beautiful beach in the world, or certainly on Cape Cod. And if you go enjoy it and party on it, but clean up. Don't leave your trash behind. Footprints only. And, it's not appropriate. Totally inappropriate. So that's one announcement. I guess that's it for announcements from me. I have a couple agenda item requests. Agenda item requests from the public. Any agenda item requests from the board this evening? Oh, well, I have a couple. There's confusion in the SRAC about their charge, and we've had some interviews with them, and they would like clarity on their charge, and they would like to hear from the select board on clarity on their charge. So that's an agenda item request. We want to talk about their charge and its genesis and how it's interpreted. Stuart's made some comments, and they want to really they don't want to be at odds with the select board, and they don't want to be at odds with the town. So we really need to have some clarity. I think we should have a discussion about their charge. The other one I have is relates to the second vote we took on the intersection last time we met. And I really think we need to have an agenda item for Plan B, if you will. What are we going to do if we want to do it? How are we going to do it? Who are we going to enlist? There's an awful lot of work to do there. So I really would like to have a formal agenda item on Plan B. So those are my two requests. Just want to remind folks tonight for our business agenda, we're going to have a 3-minute limit on comments. So if you've written comments and you want to read written comments, you need to rehearse them and make sure they're under 3 minutes if you really have something to say. We don't want repetitious comments. We want brevity is sanctity. But concise comments, 3-minute limit. The ZBA has done it very well, and I'm taking a lead from Randy Potash, who implemented the 3-minute rule at the ZBA, and I think it was very, very effective. So that's during our public comments on the business agenda. Any other agenda item requests and/or public announcements? Any online? I see none. Okay. Well, on to our first public hearing this evening. It's to consider an application for a new seasonal all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license for PM, doing business as the Chatham House of Pizza. Philip Miletus, manager for the business located at 75 Old Harbor Road, and I will have the clerk read the formal notice, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Office, Annex 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider an application for a new seasonal all-alcoholic beverages restaurant license for PM Inc., doing business as Chatham House of Pizza. Philip Miletus, manager for the business located at 75 Old Harbor Road.
Miletus.
Sorry.
Philip, welcome. Everybody's so excited about this. No, really, everybody's pretty excited about it.
I've been hearing that a lot.
Yeah. So tell us just a little bit what you're doing
We're going back to the old roots, 1200 Main Street, so pizza place, everything we had there. Nothing fancy restaurant stuff, but we'll do Greek additions to everything, and that's it. And a nice little quaint bar, and that's it.
I do have one question.
Yes?
You're going to have the original Greek
Yes,
salad?
yes,
All right,
yes,
thank
yes.
you. Gosh. That's super, thank you, good. Any questions from the board?
Hi, Philip. When are you going to open, or have you already?
I'm hoping to open August 1st.
Great. Oh, I think we're all happy to see this back in business.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, that being said, any comments from the public? This is a public hearing, either online or in person. Yes, Mr. Phillips.
Good, how are you?
All right, Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. Phil did a great job with Wing House Pizza as long as I can remember, and I'm sure he will continue to do so. Glad you're back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all are. Okay.
Is there a, I assume there's a license available. Did that, somebody relinquish one?
Shauna?
It's
Yeah.
seasonal licenses are
They're seasonal,
unlimited.
all alcohol.
Oh, okay.
I believe they're
Hoping
unlimited.
it was year-round, but that's okay.
It's seasonal. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. We'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. Have fun, Phil. Good luck.
Thank you.
You'll do great. Everybody's really excited again. Okay, we have a consent agenda this evening. The consideration of a special one-day entertainment license, Music on the Porch with Old Exit 11 Band at Chatham Marconi Maritime Center, 831 Orleans Road, North Chatham, on August 6th, 2026, from 4:30 to 6:30. Jen Falvey, the executive director, has requested this. I think you had this, something similar last year, if not even the year before. So, Jen, well, welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yep, last year we did a series. This year, unfortunately, we can only have one. So the Old X11 has agreed to be our band on a Thursday.
I love the name. Are people supposed to bring their own chairs and towels? and
Absolutely,
stuff?
same thing,
Okay.
picnic, blankets, chairs. It's open to the public. There's no charge.
No charge. Great, good deal. Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, motion, please.
Move approval.
And a second? Okay, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro, excuse me.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. Thank you, Jennifer. Have
you.
fun.
Mr. Chair, I was wondering if you might want to take item F out of order. It's consider a request to increase membership to the Chatham Cultural Council.
I would like Barry to sit here all evening. Barry, please, we will take that out of order.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Good job. Good evening, Barry.
Good evening. Barry Desolets, Chair, Chatham Cultural Council. The Cultural Council voted at our past meeting on July 6th to increase our membership from 7 to 9. We currently have 6. You have interviewed 2 other candidates, and Kathy should be getting another application tomorrow from a gentleman who is the chief marketing officer of a company. He's also an artist. He also plays in a band, so he'd be perfect. So that would bring us up to 9. The 2 that have already interviewed,
I'm sorry, I show 7. You have 7 currently appointed. So is someone
7.
stepping down?
That's right.
Sorry.
Sue got appointed.
Just wanted to make sure we were right on the numbers, because then that would be a third for 2 seats.
Okay, woof, we got a lot. Okay, so anyway, we want to go to 9 because they're available. Less than a year ago, we were on the verge of being under 5, and we had one member who wasn't showing up at meetings, so we were in trouble. And so within a year, we've really stepped it up.
Very good. Awesome. Okay, any issues, any questions for Barry?
I move approval.
A second.
Okay, and absolutely. We'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Castro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken says aye. Good job, Barry. Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could we, after the Chatham, the next agenda item, which is the update on the well testing, could we hear about the seasonal communities agenda item before the 2 affordable housing discussions?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, Rob, welcome. How we're doing? We're doing well, huh?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Select Board members. Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. I'm here to do the June monthly water report. Nope, this is not the right one, excuse me. Here we go. So for the month of June, the Chatham wells have been pumping 7 to 18 hours per day. Water tanks did hit the low-level alarms 3 times in June, on 6/17, 6/19, and 6/26, a Wednesday and 2 Fridays. This is before wells 5 and 8 were pumping into the system, so we're still playing some catch-up there. It's been a pretty dry June, so nothing out of the unusual. We usually see about anywhere from 3 to 6 low water tank levels in June, so it's a little bit lower than average, which is good. Sorry. I guess I've got to scroll. So for the training field, wells 5 and 8, so we did start pumping into the Chatham's water supply on June 24th. It was closely monitored during the day. We only had a couple of short days where we were watching things, making sure all the chemicals were feeding properly. We shut it down for the weekend, so we didn't have staff there. But then on June 29th, during the day, we started pumping full-time into Chatham's water, and it's fully automated. So now we have, for the first time, all 11 wells for Chatham are pumping into the water supply. So July will really give us a really good glimpse into what our adequacy is for the need, for the demand. Irrigation meters, again, we are down to just several properties that are not in compliance. As of June 30th, there were 2 properties that had not paid for the second meter. They were already fined $79,200 each. We went to court on one of those on July 13th, yesterday. Unfortunately, it was just the person that was in front of the judge was ordered to pay a court fine of $50, and there was no remediation towards having their irrigation meter installed. That person claimed they didn't have the $50, so they gave them a month to pay. So for $200 to have an irrigation meter installed and then hiring a plumber, I don't see where that would be a path forward. We'll have to work with that property owner to see if we can come to some resolution in the meantime. I don't believe they're using their irrigation system now, but they still don't have a second meter at this time. The second person will be in front of the judge on August 10th. And then there's still other properties that 12 properties have not made appointments for the second meter, and another 3 properties have appointments, and then through August, and then there's another 6 properties that are kind of in the queue, but just haven't made made the appointments yet. Any questions on that? I know it was a little confusing, but
It is a little confusing, Robert. So the way I read it is there's 12 plus 4 is 16 that are really scofflaws. 3 at least have appointments, and 6 need to reschedule, but they certainly, sounds as though they know what they need to do.
they've paid for the meter. They're waiting for their plumber or whatever kind of scheduling conflicts they have.
But the 12 that haven't made appointments to install a second meter, they know that they need to install one. They've confirmed that they're aware that they need to install or not.
It's one of those things where we're sending the fines to them, and we may wind up in court. Sometimes you get a letter from a judge, from a clerk magistrate, and that does tend to motivate the person pretty quickly.
Boy, it gets down where you're going to be dealing with these kind of individually, aren't you? I mean,
yes.
It is confusing, though, and it's too bad. Okay. Mr. Smith, yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Is there consideration to bulk all these complaints together and go to court once and send town council?
Unfortunately, that's not the way the laws are set up. They have to be fined individually every day, and then it's up to the clerk magistrate and the judge to determine when they're going to be tried.
Right. No, I understand the process, but things may have changed, but the first part of the process with the fining and the days they get to appeal, I understand that's set in statute, but the grouping of like complaints we did as a norm. So if I had 50 complaints against a on mooring issues, they would schedule it for one morning. And it might be something you want to have a conversation with, so we get some seriousness, on our part.
They would schedule all the cases all in one morning, if you
Yeah.
will?
Yeah.
Might be helpful.
Yeah, I have had conversations with the clerk magistrate, and for whatever reason, they spread them out over a month-and-a-half period.
Yeah, Ms. Potash?
Yeah, thank you. So, Rob, do you have to go there every time yourself, or do you send someone? How does it work?
No, it's a Zoom meeting, so if
Oh,
it's an
very good.
arraignment, the property owner has to appear in person, but we can participate via Zoom.
You can, okay, thank you.
But it is a lengthy Zoom call, sometimes several hours by the time the case gets called.
Right.
So, excuse me, but, so the person who's been issued the fine shows up to the magistrate hearing?
If they show up, yes.
Well,
We've only had one so far.
okay, we'll put it a different way. So when they're requested or ordered by the court to show up, they show up, or they get a warrant?
Correct.
Okay, so, but the town shows up on Zoom?
Correct.
Well, maybe when we have our, I don't think that, I'm not sure that that shows the seriousness on our part. I think it's all about getting the attention of the court, at least my experience with Orleans District Court. And, if we show up, they tend to be more serious. With more serious cases, occasionally I would request town council to show up, and they would show up, and then the court would take it a little bit more seriously. It's all about how we approach this, and just food for thought.
Randy, please, yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify, is this a clerk magistrate's hearing for whether or not to issue a criminal complaint? Or is it a summons arraignment and you get to go remotely? You know which it is?
It starts at the clerk magistrate.
Right, so this is a clerk magistrate hearings to determine whether or not to issue a complaint.
A criminal
And
complaint.
you've only had one.
We only had one, and that was in front of the judge yesterday.
Wasn't it in front of the magistrate?
No, it was in front of the judge.
Oh, okay, and it's a criminal complaint?
And he changed it from criminal to civil and lowered the fine to $50.
Right.
Okay, and, okay, so there wouldn't be, my understanding is there wouldn't be a warrant for them if they don't show up. There would be a summons arraignment, different, but it's much different than, they're not gonna get arrested,
Yeah, well,
no.
my,
But it would be a summons arraignment, yeah.
my experience is that, at least in Orleans District Court, if you issued a citation, the people didn't pay it, or the court would order them to show up, they didn't show up, a warrant for their arrest would be issued. That's the process we used. Maybe something's changed in 2 years, but that's what it was.
Mr. DeCastro?
Rob, was it your sense that yesterday that the judge was influenced by a belief that this particular individual was a hardship case?
I believe that may be part of it. He claimed he didn't have, so it was an inherited house from his mother. He claimed he didn't have an irrigation system, which we know he does. And we know he's a backflow device. And then he claimed kind of a hardship, and the judge, I believe, my interpretation was the judge had sympathy on him, and they gave him, again, a month to pay a $50 fine.
Rob, was he there in person, or was he on Zoom?
He was there in person. So I've appeared before in person, and then the clerk magistrate was like, don't waste your time, just appear on Zoom. So I just took their advice.
Have we had more recent conversation with town council about how to handle these? Because we have several of them here that are running up fines about how to, and Stuart offered some suggestions about how to deal with this at the courthouse.
Not recently, we haven't. We have, over the course of time, since we started sending out those letters, we've had several conversations.
Okay. My broader concern, I have no basis in this particular instance at Orleans, but, I attended some of the airport skydiving litigation, and there was a judge, now retired, who literally said something to the effect that, well, the town of Chatham has a lot of money and, they can afford lawyers. And there was some sense, I'm concerned that, we might be viewed as not really needing this money or or these fines. So I think I would encourage, at some point soon, sit down with town council to discuss we might more efficiently process these cases. Thank you.
Rob, I have another quick one. You've also verified the following status changes. What does it mean that 39 properties are on the exception report? What does that mean?
So we had developed an exception report, properties that are either under construction or, in some kind of a process of renovation where
Gotcha.
their yard may be torn up and they,
Okay.
That was done
We
at
put
the
a
Water
pause.
and Sewer Committee, by the way, with their approval.
Yeah, good, okay. I just didn't know what it was. Okay, thank you. Water sampling,
Yeah, water sampling is all good.
good. And then we're gonna take samples from Training Field, obviously, after the startup.
Yeah, we've been sampling that all
All
along.
along, okay.
I think there are monthly requirements to send the DEP. Station maintenance, nothing out of the ordinary here. Everything is going very well, considering the summer flows that we have. System maintenance, so one unusual thing was an AT&T truck struck the hydrant in the water storage tanks, and we replaced that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
So what happens in that instance? Do we have a claim against AT&T?
Yeah, they repair it. Their insurance company takes
Okay,
care of it.
thank you.
And then moving on, here is the pumping comparison for the month. You can see we're at 64 million gallons, 4 million over last June, 6.7%. Again, it's been a pretty dry month, so nothing unusual out of that. And here we go with the graph. You can see it's very similar, the upper part, except the middle of the month from about the 9th to the 20th.
Yeah.
If I were probably look back at the weather, we'd probably see it maybe of a drier period where people were irrigating more. It's the only unusual thing I could see out of that.
Oh, we had a heat wave too during that time, I think.
We did. And then the June monthly report just shows, our average is 2 million gallons, a little over 2 million gallons per day. Minimum is 1.4 million, maximum is approaching 3 million. Again, for a June, that's not unusual. And then you can see wells 5 and 8 just starting to come and pump into the system in the last couple of days of June. And here's our monthly pumping graph. Again, Training Field wells are just starting to show up on the graph. And our year-to-date pumping report. So for 2026 so far, we've pumped 180 million gallons. Last year, we were down around 163 million. So, despite the drought we've been in for approximately 2 years, we're still pumping more water. I don't know if that's drought fatigue, possibly. But
Yeah.
anyway.
I noted it's up 10.5%. 17 million gallons. That's double digits. That's a bit, gross pumping, so.
But it has been, I think, drier than it has last year.
Yes, yeah. So at least we're having adequate supply, knock on wood, thus far. Okay, good.
And here's the year-to-date. I apologize, the graph that you had for the pumping graph had a blue line on there. That was an anomaly, so it looks slightly different. It wasn't an identified month. It was just a blue line and a blue dot at the bottom. I think it was meant to be a
Okay.
kind of a total, like an accumulated pumping, but it didn't translate. So this is the accurate one. All the other columns from January to June are accurate. Just ignore the blue one in your packet.
June's green, yep.
Yep, correct. And unmetered water usage, you can still see flushing and blow-offs are around 3.6 million gallons. We had a number of dirty water calls, especially over near George Ryder Road. Then wells 5 and 8, we were pumping to waste, trying to get all the chemicals calibrated. We didn't want to pump that into the system. So I think that's part of the reason you see that number so high. And then the 5-year pumping. We're right in line, 64 million. The average is 63.3 million.
Yep.
We're right in line where we should be. Even the pumping hours are pretty much right in line. So that's all a good sign, pretty consistent.
Yeah, this looks good.
And Chatham observation wells, we're pretty much in line with last year. Hopefully our trough doesn't go down quite as deep as last year, but time will tell. we're not worse than last year yet, so that's a good sign. And then when we-
Rob, on those, the last little piece, it's period of provisional data. That's not real data, that decline on both? That's provisional at the very tail end of it?
It is, it's an estimate.
It's an estimate, okay. Yeah, okay, thanks.
They do have real-time reporting, but I think they still go back and verify to make sure it's accurate.
Yep.
And this is Brewster, very similar to last year as well. And then this is the drought update. The 6 indexes that are measured are precipitation, stream flow, groundwater, lakes and impoundments, KBDI fire danger, and evapotranspiration. So if we look at our precipitation index, you could see they look back 15 months or an 18-month look back, and we are at a level 2 for Cape Cod.
Still, huh?
And then we look at the stream flow. It's a little worse here. We're, I think, at a level 4 in part of the Cape and a level 2 in part of the Cape. So that's a little bit worse, but there's only 2 reporting locations. And then we look at the groundwater percentiles. Again, you can see the Chatham and the Brewster observation wells on there, and they are in the orange, the level 2. So that's consistent to what we're seeing. And then lakes and impoundments. We're at the 19th percentile. There's only one area on Cape Cod that reports on that, and that's Garrett's Pond.
Garrett's Pond?
Yeah, it's in Barnstable.
Okay.
It's the only single reporting entity. And then the KBDI is basically it's a wildfire risk.
Okay.
So that just measured soil moisture. And that's 353, which would be at a level 1, basically.
And that's
here's-
good?
And here's evapotranspiration. Again, this is the level 2, but you can see parts of the Cape if it's just kind of a pixelated color, but some of it's yellow, some of it's orange, some is red. So that measures basically the sun, wind, and vegetation evaporation. So if we look at our recent hydraulic history, we're in a 2-year drought. We've had some ebbs and flows. We've had some areas where some months that we seem to recover, and then months that are a setback. So we've kind of doing this roller coaster for the last year or so. But, we'll see if we can get out of it by fall. But as was announced last week, we're at a level 2, which was consistent with last month. And hopefully we can maintain that for the month of July.
Yeah, I was hopeful that would be a little better because of the winter, but it doesn't look that way, does it? 'Cause we had a winter finally, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Now, even the rain we had Monday and Tuesday last week was substantial.
It was.
That's not enough to
Yeah.
wipe away a deficit for 2 years,
Yeah. Okay, those are great reports. Mr. Nacastro.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I know there is a public member who wants to comment, but I want to just commend Rob. It seems like every month you enhance this report with some additional slides and information. It's pretty comprehensive. I also want to, frankly, take some credit to the board, to you, Mr. Chair, and in particular, and I'll immodestly throw myself in this because, and there are others, relative to the opening of wells 10 and 11, because 7 or 8, 9 years ago, it wasn't clear that we were ever going to open those wells up.
Yep.
And now they're here and they're online, and I think we should give kudos to our staff, Water and Sewer Committee, and to the Select Board for pushing this, and the town manager for overseeing it. And I guess the only thing I would also mention, the Water and Sewer Committee most recently considered a proposal to amend the town bylaws or regulations relative to enforcement, including an enforcement mechanism for sewer hookups. Is that correct? What did they did this last week?
I missed that meeting,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I was not present myself. I was unable to be there, but.
But I don't know if the,
Yeah, I think I saw a communication from Chair Colby, so that will be coming to the board.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
If I may add, Mass DEP is asking, just recently, just today, we got a notification from them that they're asking us to renew our water permit. And one of the criteria that they spell out in there is an enforcement mechanism. We would have 2 years or so to come up with some kind of enforcement mechanism about irrigation and people violating any kind of water conservation mandate.
That's what it was about. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good. Good timing. All right, Rob, thank you. Those reports are great. Yeah.
I had one question.
Mr. Smith.
Rob,
we have a
excuse me,
question.
sorry. Do you have any, this came up earlier, I'd just like to put it to rest. Do you have any more insight on this hydrant running near the animal control building on George Ryder for 3 or 4 days? At least that's what we reported.
We were having dirty water calls, so we were flushing it, but instead of the normal flushing where we would have the hydrant fully open like we do in the springtime, it was more of a gradual, smaller scale flushing.
And that goes on for 3 or 4?
It went on for several days, yeah.
Yeah. And the emergency number that was called, that's posted at the pump stations, is that that's not 24 hours?
That goes to the answering service.
That goes to an answering service?
And
At
they,
5-1?
yeah, they ping the person on call for Veolia who manages water and sewer. There's a 24-hour on-call person.
So somebody was I'm assuming somebody was notified for that hydrant?
We knew it was running, it's whether we are to respond after hours, or just, thanks for the heads up, we'll get to it next business day, because we were aware it was running. It wasn't an emergency that we felt.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Rob? Okay, thank you, Rob. Great report. I'm sorry, Nicole Stern, I think, at the N online, hand up. Nicole, is that you?
Yes,
Hi,
that's me. Thank you. Good evening.
good evening.
I am a little disappointed, but it appears that there are no consequences for people that are not following the mandate. I think it's great that we're getting lots of responsible people, even though it's late, 3.5, 4 years late, that are getting the second meter. But I think we're in a very bad position, and I hope that you do follow up with council, because we have fines out there. We're not collecting a dime. So there's really no incentive for the people left to conform. I mean, it was a mandate by the town. And that also brings me that I wanted to ask Rob about the people that aren't registered. And I ask that every once in a while when we have a meeting. What are we doing about them? And how, if we find them, when we find them, how are we going to get them to conform when, again, there are no consequences?
So we do review the high water users every month. We're up to the top 100 water users every month. Through this entire process, I think we've had, it was in the 50s, 50 or so irrigation systems that were not registered that have now registered with the town. So we are making headway. It's not going to happen overnight. It is a lengthy process, unfortunately, but we are making a lot of headway.
We expanded that search, if you will. We were at 50 or so, and at our suggestion, we expanded to 100.
Correct.
Has that yielded results?
Absolutely, and we found more houses that had leaks.
Good.
So we've notified those property owners.
Okay, if we kind of get through those, maybe we bump it up to $1.25 or 150 or whatever, just to, as Nicole brings up a good point. And it's going to take some digging and some work to identify the folks that are, cheating the system. But, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, anybody else for Rob? Okay, hearing and seeing none, Mr. Stewart has asked to take the seasonal communities designation agenda item out of order.
Public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, on the next item.
Oh, public comments on the business agenda. Yeah, if you have comments on the business agenda that you would like to express now versus when the item is brought up, you're able to do so. at a 3-minute limit. And I see no one wanting to comment, so we'll go on to our business agenda. And again, Mr. Smith is asked to take the review of the housing elements of the seasonal communities designation out of order in advance of the land disposition agreement discussion. So I asked Gloria McPherson to come forward, and here she is. Welcome, Gloria. Good memo. Why don't you kind of take us through it a little bit and see if we got some questions for you.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. So I prepared a fairly long memo for you guys with a table of some of the key items of the seasonal community's final regulations for your review. I want to backtrack to the adoption of seasonal communities by town meeting of 2025. We were an early adopter, and as such, as anticipated, we ended up getting a $175,000 seasonal community grant program grant, which is used to move the Stepping Stones Road project forward. And actually, the grant period is already over, so they've used up the $175,000. Some of it was used to put a deposit on the solar installation, so that we're going to have solar panels installed right from the beginning on that. And I appreciate and am thankful for town meeting's vote for that, because this year we got the NOFA for the FY27 Seasonal Communities Grant Program, and the maximum we're going to be eligible for is only $75,000, because it's the same $2 million set aside, but it's being spread out amongst more communities that have adopted it. So good job, Chatham, for adopting it. We really ended up benefiting from that early adoption. So part of the reason we wanted to adopt it, in addition to getting the grant funds, early and being able to use them for the Stepping Stones Road project, is because there are some components that were really appealing to a place like Chatham. So there were things that we had actually asked for. The ability to do attainable housing restrictions, the ability to do year-round housing restrictions. So I don't know if you've been to planning board meetings when we were talking about West Chatham Neighborhood Center zoning. The idea of year-round restrictions came up all the time. Like, the board members kept saying, why can't we do year-round restrictions? And the answer was, at the time, before seasonal communities, there's no mechanism in the law that would allow us to do attainable or seasonal or year-round occupancy restrictions. So that was the big win, in my opinion, for seasonal communities. So now we can do attainable housing restrictions. Now we can do year-round housing occupancy restrictions. We got the bigger grant funds by being an early adopter. And there are a few other things that are summarized in the table, which I think are really important and beneficial to Chatham, having to do with seasonal communities. And that's the idea that we can target our housing efforts for state employees, municipal employees, school district employees, essential workers who are employed by the municipality, so DPW workers, firefighters, teachers. Those are all actually specifically mentioned in the Affordable Homes Act of 2024. So now we can actually target some of the housing that we develop specifically to these occupations. It also includes artists and creatives, writers. And if you remember, also in 2025, when we adopted seasonal communities, we also passed a home rule petition that would allow commercial fishermen to be among the professions that could be targeted for seasonal communities. And we tack that in with the artists and writers and creatives, with the idea that just like artists and writers are both culturally and economically important to Chatham, so is our fishing community. So it seemed like a really good fit. And from what I understand, Wellfleet did a similar home rule petition this year. I expect other Cape communities are going to do the same thing. So that was really briefly and quickly, in my opinion, some of the really important benefits of seasonal communities. And of course, with every good thing, there's always like the flip side. What do we have to do now that we're a seasonal community? So there are two requirements on that, and we have to do this in order to maintain our designation and get all those benefits of the grant program, of targeting housing to teachers and municipal employees, of doing these year-round occupancy restrictions, attainable housing restrictions. And the two zoning amendments that we have to pass are related to tiny homes and related to attainable housing on undersized lots. So the tiny homes by right zoning, in my opinion, is not really different from what we have. Like, people can build a tiny home if they want right now. And there are certain requirements that go along with tiny homes, like there's a square footage maximum. They have to have a year-round housing occupancy restriction, which is fabulous. It means it can't be a short-term rental, has to be the principal dwelling, must comply with state building codes. And then Chatham can further regulate or even prohibit movable tiny homes. So all we're talking about are smaller scale homes on an actual foundation as the principal residence on a lot. So you can already do this. This is an easy zoning amendment. We'll probably do it by putting a line item in the use table. And tiny homes by right have to be allowed in all zoning districts where single-family homes are allowed, either by right or special permit, which is most of our zoning districts. I think it excludes municipal, conservation, industrial, but basically anywhere you see single-family homes in town, you're going to be allowed to build tiny homes. But like I said, you can already build a tiny home. So I don't think that that's going to have a huge impact on Chatham in any way.
Those have to, not to interrupt Gloria, but they have to go to the planning board. And we have to adopt those by in our annual town meeting.
Correct. So the zoning bylaw amendments that are required under seasonal communities have to be, like, the official process is the select board has to refer to the planning board has to hold a public hearing, town meeting has to vote on it. Right.
But we can't forget.
No, I'm on it.
Good.
Yeah, and actually, the timeline is interesting. So we have 2 years to adopt this zoning from the time the final regulations became effective, which was like the end of February, I think February 27th or something like that, or 25th. But 2 years puts us like 2 months before town meeting. So actually, even though we have 2 years to do it, we really have to do it by next town meeting.
Yeah, we do.
Because unless we have a special fall town meeting, which is not guaranteed, we really have to put it on the 2027 annual town meeting. And I don't see an issue with that. I don't think that either of these zoning amendments are really big or complicated. I think that they'll be well received by town, actually. And so, especially tiny homes, because we can, like I said, we can already do that. So the second zoning is a little bit more complicated. It's not just going to be a footnote in the use table and a line item in the use table. It's probably going to have a few paragraphs involved. And so this is attainable housing on undersized lots, also by right in any zoning district where single-family homes are allowed, either by special permit or by right, which is all the same zoning districts that tiny homes will have to be allowed in. And so has to be attainable housing, not affordable. Attainable housing is also year-round, but attainable has the income restriction. The lot has to be smaller than the actual square footage lot of the zoning district, but there's still a threshold of 10,000 square feet. So you can't do this on a 2,000 square foot lot. You can't do it on a 9,999 square foot lot. You have to do it on 10,000 square feet up to like 1 foot below what the zoning district maximum or minimum lot size is. I think it was a select board meeting and not a planning board meeting. I showed a visual of the undersized lots that would meet this definition in town.
Yeah, you did.
And then I had the second visual, which is like all the developed undersized lots in town. And I think there were something like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like in the 10s, so say like 50 or 70 like undersized lots that are undeveloped, but there are hundreds and hundreds of undersized lots that are already developed because, a generation ago, our lot sizes were much smaller. Like, people built houses on 10 and 15,000 square feet. And then we upsized the zoning, and so now you have these pre-existing non-conforming lots. So a lot of these undersized lots fit right into neighborhoods. And in fact, there's one neighborhood where like the undersized lot that wasn't developed is actually bigger than all of the other lots in the neighborhood. So in a way, like tiny homes, this isn't necessarily going to change the the character of Chatham. It's almost like an infill development type thing. So we have these undersized lots throughout our developed neighborhoods, which all of a sudden become, you know, able to put a house on it. So one of the interesting things about this particular zoning bylaw that we're going to have, and the regulations make it clear that it's still subject to sewer and septic regulations. So if this is an undersized lot that's not on sewer, it still has to meet Title V requirements. So that's going to limit some of the developable undersized lots because of the, you know, the wastewater management requirements. You know, and there are frontage requirements, there are setback requirements. The regulations allow Chatham and other communities, of course, to go further, like the minimum setback, whatever, is 15 feet, and we would be allowed to do less. I wouldn't recommend that. I would just say we should craft a zoning bylaw that meets the requirements of this attainable housing on undersized lots without like going crazy, without saying that, you know, you don't need any frontage or the setback can be 5 feet. We can craft a bylaw that meets the requirements that still fits in with the character of Chatham. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is we can also say that these are for lots in existence at the time of the bylaw, so that people aren't, you know, cleaving their parcels and creating new undersized lots.
Gotcha, gotcha.
All right, that's maybe more detail than I wanted to go
No,
into. But
thank you,
if you guys have any questions on
I think we do. I'm particularly interested in the essential public employee preference. If you might, you know, wax eloquent there, Gloria, and then I think that probably impacts some discussion on the LDA as well. I just, can you explain how we can take advantage, I should say, of our public employee preference?
So this would be something that's not written into zoning. This is something that would be on a project-by-project basis.
Okay.
And you're right, so it's going to show up when we talk about the LDA for stepping stones, where we're proposing that there are going to be 12 units developed on the Stepping Stones Road property with, in the LDA as it's currently written, 2 reserved for municipal or school district employees. So, and that's the benefit of seasonal communities, that we can reserve or target these units for people who work for the town or work for the school district.
Let's have questions on seasonal or comments on seasonal, and then let's go to the LDA, because I'm sure there's a nexus there. Mr. Smith.
Sure. Thank you, Gloria. I was looking at it was on page 2 of your memo, essential public employees. It's hard to, we've been round and around with this for probably 20 years, and it's hard to find employees in municipal government that aren't essential in some way, shape, or form, but I'm sure there's a few. The next categories, they define municipal employee, includes municipal employees holding office, position, or employment in a municipal agency and serving with or without compensation. What's a municipal employee that we don't pay?
A board member would be considered a special municipal employee under the law, so yeah.
It's not what I envisioned. Okay.
They took that, excuse me, I think they took that right out of the conflict of interest law definition.
Yeah.
Of a municipal employee.
But my point is, I don't think it's who we're trying to target. We're trying to target those
No,
people.
I agree.
Who are full-time employees, so I just found that surprising. It goes on to say, or on a full, regular, then part-time or intermittent basis.
So it could be a part-time employee not working 40 hours a week. Intermittent could be a seasonal employee.
No, I understand what they are. I'm just trying to understand if we're trying to assist. I mean, the town of Chatham is the second largest, I believe, employer in the town, second only to Chatham Parsons. So I think makes sense to target those employees to live in this community, or at least as close as we can get them. And I envisioned, you know, full-time employees, full-time employment, wanting to raise their children here, send them to the schools, and become part of the community. And I was just wondering if you had any insight on I don't think part-time or intermittent is somebody we're trying to target.
So I would agree with that. I think in general, when laws and regulations are written, and this is good practice too, I think that at the state level, they try to be as broad as possible to give municipalities as many options as possible. So I agree that we don't necessarily want part-time or intermittent, but right now, that's how the regulations are written.
Yeah, and is there, so there is an opportunity for us to restrict this, and you're suggesting?
So I don't know that you could restrict the definition of municipal employee in the regulations. So I think that if you meet that definition, then you would qualify for, the housing and the lottery.
Yeah, I don't think I was looking to limit the definition. I agree with you, probably couldn't do that. But we can limit its implementation. Hey, as a matter of town policy, we're not interested in using intermittent employees and interfering with a full-time employee's ability to get home.
I would let town council opine on that.
Okay.
Mr. DeCastro.
Stuart, can I just add something to
Yeah.
this? Since I know you have other stuff. I was looking at this, the way I'm reading these regulations themselves, the key definition is the seasonal community essential public employee. And that basically says that you have to be an employee. Now, you could be intermittent, you could be part-time, you could be full-time. You could be on a board, you could be a regular employee. But your employment has to be necessary to the public health and public safety of maintaining a year-round community, including but not limited to teachers, public works employees, public safety employees, publicly employed first responders, town administrators, and other employees essential for municipal operations. So they're giving those specific categories, which I think we could choose from. But it's interesting, it says including but not limited to. So somebody is supposed to have the discretion to determine what other categories should be included. And I read these regulations as to give that authority to the town, because later on page 11 of the regulations, there's a reference to the process for giving the benefit of the housing to the essential employees. And the town's supposed to describe by narrative the need for the preference and how the seasonal community determined the employment types that are necessary to the public health and safety. So that says to me, since this paragraph deals with what the town's supposed to do, that it's in the town's discretion to determine all the categories or what additional categories. Now, the state might not accept it, but that's what I'm reading. So I think the key point is, as Gloria said, they drafted these regulations, they took this definition out of the conflict of interest law, which has been around for many more years than that. Because maybe some communities like Wellesley, for example, might want to have a board member that couldn't otherwise afford to live in that swell town. But I think the more dispositive definition is the one that is the one for essential employees. Anyway, I just wanted to offer my thoughts on that, and you can talk with town council, see if they agree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. That was helpful. If we could go to page 4 under your memo, attainable, which you mentioned, attainable housing units on undersized lots. And then in the last bullet, it says prohibits rentals for less than 6 months. That seems like 6 months, we'd want more than that.
Would not actually be a year-round
Right.
restriction, yeah. I mean, so the law also, the regulations also give you the ability to, because, so year-round is defined as 10 months out of a 12-month calendar year. But it also gives some flexibility for extenuating circumstances. So if someone has an ailing parent and they have to go live with them for 4 months, they're not going to lose their year-round status, and maybe during those 4 months, they rent out their place. I mean, I'm just spitballing. I don't really know. I mean, it seems like it's in conflict, but also when you look at the actual regulations and you see that kind of extenuating circumstance thing, maybe this ties in with that.
Right. I don't want to encourage rentals. I mean, here we are trying to accommodate these folks. I think, well, this is the problem with,
I think the regulations actually allow us to restrict short-term rentals on that, but that wouldn't prevent someone from doing a longer-term rental, up to 6 months perhaps.
and I guess I can see your point about, well, if somebody has an extenuating circumstance, and in order for them to go deal with that extenuating circumstance, they need to rent their place, and okay, but it should be somehow codified to be few and far between. That should be a real exception. We're not trying to encourage that, I assume.
I agree.
And then, same page, occupancy restrictions. Here we chatted about this, but it goes back to the 30-year. Could you, on the third bullet, 30-year term, these restrictions cannot legally allow year-round housing occupancy restrictions to be held in perpetuity.
So this is the same for attainable housing restrictions. So there are very few restrictions that are allowed under Mass General laws to be held in perpetuity, and they're very clearly defined: affordable housing restrictions, conservation restrictions, watershed restrictions, things like that. Attainable housing and year-round housing occupancy restrictions are not specifically listed, so therefore you cannot hold a restriction in perpetuity for them. That's why we did the home rule petition at the same time as seasonal community. No, actually, I think we did that this year.
We did.
To do this just
We did
this year.
Yep.
Specifically to allow attainable and year-round housing occupancy restrictions to be held in perpetuity, which is really like supporting the seasonal communities.
Yeah.
I think at some point, it's gonna happen. I've already heard like talk at the EOHLC and the state that like this is on everyone's radar. So I think that, for instance, we're gonna do, as you've seen in the LDA for stepping stones, we're gonna do a restriction for the maximum term allowed under the law for the attainable units. And then we're going to use a springing restriction so we can redo it at the end of that 30 years, which is the maximum term. But I'm hoping at some point we can write it in such a way that once we're allowed to hold those in perpetuity, then that's what happens.
Yeah, we don't want to end up like the CHOP housing again.
No.
Right.
No. I think
intentions.
with the springing restriction language that's in the LDA, I think that takes care of that. You just have to be on top of this, like in 30 years minus 6 months, someone at the town is going, and I'm not going to be here.
None of us will be.
You guys aren't either. Someone at the town is going to have to actually re-up those restrictions unless they they're in perpetuity now.
And yeah, how that happens, I don't know, because that is a significant weakness on our part.
So just judging by all the people who are like so painfully aware that the chop house restrictions are going to be expiring, I think that there's going to be an entire cohort of people who are going to be like very aware when those 30-year restrictions are going to be expiring for Stepping Stones Road.
So we love about you, you're an optimist. Not so much over here. Just, okay, well, I hope.
Yeah, and the chop houses were written differently. Like, we didn't have the option to just automatically renew the restriction. We're going to have that option with Stepping Stones Road and other attainable housing restrictions as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we have somebody to police it, that'll be good. All right, thank you.
Hopefully, we'll get the home rule petition gets approved.
Exactly.
And then we'll be done with it, right? Right. Any other questions for Gloria on, yes, please, Randy?
So Gloria, does the home rule petition to include fishermen, or fisherwomen, does that have to get approved by the Attorney General?
It
A home rule
does.
petition does? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
And the court as well.
It has to be
Right.
voted by the legislature.
In the legislature,
Legislature.
yeah.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you for the very comprehensive report, Gloria, appreciate that. We did, as I recall, we did submit some comments to the agency when they had submitted their draft regulations back in February. Didn't we not submit a letter?
I think you did. I did also. I think I actually testified at one of the hearings,
Okay.
too.
There's a provision, it's on page 14, 7611, for waiver from any of these requirements if the town wanted to. Did you have the sense, because you followed these pretty carefully, these proceedings, did you have any sense that that would be a fairly narrow loophole, to use a...
So, no, there were no specific examples given, but I can tell you that that language was in the first draft of the regulations and was carried through to the second draft. It wasn't elaborated on or anything.
I think with respect to the two zoning changes that are going to have to be implemented, we'll have to, I guess, refer this to the planning board at some point? Or is the planning board going to take this up on their own to propose the bylaw changes to the protective bylaw? How's that going to work?
Should we remand the issue to them or raise the issue to them? Or the house? Or
I think they're aware that they have to do it.
Oh, okay, all right. As long as
Okay. So I think we'll see, how they craft them. I think that's going to be very important in terms of being able to sell this to town meeting. The one item that's in here, residential tax exemption, can be bumped up to 50% if the select board so chooses in a seasonal community. That's part of the, it's in the statute, I think, that's behind the regulations. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Well, on to the LDA. Carolyn, please come forward.
Carolyn McClellan, South Chatham. I just had a question. Hopefully, I don't know if anyone here can answer. If not, go up to the town council. In regards to the preference for municipal employees, when we would be building a property and we want to have that option, is it, and maybe this will come up with the stepping stones, is it like these two units are going to be for municipal employees, or would it be a preference for on application? So if there were, we're going to have, an application goes out, and if there's any fishermen or municipal, if not fishermen, municipal employees who apply, they would get it over somebody else, and that would be a recurring thing? Or is it, if we build that house and it's for municipal employees, it has to be for municipal employees moving on? I was wondering how logistically that would work out. So I'm not.
I mean, all good questions. I don't have an answer.
I'm not sure I have an answer for that either.
Okay,
It could be just on an, well,
Because then if it's their house, if we make a house that's, we want teachers there, or who are municipal employees, and then later on it comes up in the market and there aren't any applicants, what then happens? Whereas if you gave them preference, if they're in the pool and you want to give a certain amount of them preference in that pool, then, so that would be a logistic thing that, I assume that it would be preference, but that.
Mr. Nacastro.
I don't have an answer either, but we do have town council on, and maybe she can comment either now or when we're doing the LDA, because that's a very good question.
That's a good question.
And the other question I had was, I had the assumption that the town would have the discretion, depending on the type of building that, whatever opportunity came on the type of development, and I use P-Town for an example, if they had a property that they thought would be ideal for artists, they would designate, well, this would be a great artist studio type of situation. So they would want that for artists, not for everybody, but for artists. And we might have a community that we would have preference for municipal workers. or something. Is that our discretion to do? That would be my
Well,
question.
Artist housing is a little bit different because there are other requirements in the seasonal communities regulations for that. It has to be designed specifically for use by artists, and you actually have to explain to EOHLC like how you've done that and how you've met those requirements. So I think artist housing is a little bit different.
So then that would be specific to them, but
It would be.
would it be an option to be specific for us in other scenarios? So those are questions that I have in the term, so, okay, thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. Thank you. We have a town council. Lisa, you can speak if you'd like. I'll recognize you if you have any thoughts on those questions from Carolyn.
Sure. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. It's good to see you all this evening. I think that the way this is written and the way it would have to be implemented is you would have 2 designated units. And when they came up for sale, you would create a lottery of the eligible municipal employees that would have to be done with the lottery agent, and then obviously reviewed and approved by EOHLC. But you would have to have 2, because we reserved 2 for municipal employees. I think you're going to have designated units.
Okay, thoughts? Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Well,
Stuart, you have something?
Hello, Lisa. Stuart Smith here. It's related to this, not specifically, but it's come up. Would that hold true for 127 Old Harbor Road if we wanted to hold it for school employees? We've talked about trying to keep with Ms. Ellis's will intentions, and one of the ways was to she wanted it dedicated for the use of the children or the benefit of the children. And one of the thoughts was, well, that attainable housing on 127 Old Harbor Road, we could designate that for.
Mr. Smith, I'm not familiar with the project, so I couldn't opine on the specifics of it.
Okay, well, we'll be dealing with that in August. We can address it then.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, we certainly would like to. I see Elaine Gibbs, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I don't think at the 2025 town meeting understood the implications. We thought this was some kind of an award, and I'm opposed to it for 2 reasons. Every time you give a preference to certain groups like artists or town employees, you take away from other groups the opportunity to get housing. Like the elderly, people who have owned homes and are taxpayers and live in town, but can no longer afford to live there. It also eliminates all single-family residential districts if it is for year-round or perhaps only 6 months of affordable housing. I don't think people understand the implications of that. The impact on abutting properties, our infrastructure, water, and a massive increase in density will be substantial. I think subletting by any tenant, if they could do that over 6 months, is absurd, and a huge potential abuse with virtually no ability to monitor it. I think that this is not a good thing for Chatham. We already have traffic issues with our water and our infrastructure, and this is going to increase density substantially. And I think that the abutters who have paid taxes on properties that are in residential districts are going to be hurt in a lot of ways that I don't think we can even conceive of. Thank you.
Carolyn, you've got your hand up. I'll recognize you one more time, and then we'll move on here.
Yeah, if I could just ask Carolyn McClellan, South Chatham, if I could just ask the attorney, her interpretation, is that based on the way this particular LDA was written? Is that specific to that? Or is that how she's interpreting the general seasonal communities designation?
This particular LDA, because we reserved 2 units, right?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Carolyn.
There's nothing that would prevent us, personally, I don't think 2 units is enough, but I understand Ms. Gibbs' concerns. I share some of them on the density and the holistically of the community that we are adding significantly stresses to our land use, but it, maybe an issue for another discussion. But more immediately, that 2 units held in reserve, we could make 50% held in reserve, or held for municipal employees if we chose, right?
You could. Yes, sorry,
Oh.
to be definitive, yeah. Or were you asking Lisa?
Well, I could ask both of you.
So as an agenda item, we're now into the LDA. Let's recognize that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the LDA, and I share the exact same question. 2 units, why not 4, why not 6, why not 8? What was the thought process for earmarking 2 rather than 10?
I'm not sure. Jill, I don't know if you remember the discussion around that?
I think Hack might have offered it to us, but certainly Laura, do you want to set up the staff report, and then we can turn it over?
Sure,
Okay.
let's tee it up. Yep.
Okay.
Chairman, are there any more comments on on the?
I didn't think there were.
Okay, just wanted to
Castro.
make
Yeah, so we're going on to our next agenda item, which is a consideration of the land disposition agreement on stepping stones. And so Gloria can take it away, and then Lisa, please add value as you see.
Okay,
Gloria.
I'm going to do a very general
Yep, good.
introduction. So, as you guys know, we put out an RFP for the development of Stepping Stones Road. We received 1 proposal, which was from HAC, Housing Assistance Corp. The review team reviewed it intensely, considering there was only 1 application, just to make sure that it really met the requirements of the RFP and met the needs of the town. And then the select board accepted that proposal. And after that happened, the town manager, acting as chief procurement officer, set up a negotiating team to work with HAC and their council to draft a land disposition agreement, which describes how the property is going to be developed, how much we're selling it for, which is just $1. It's a nominal fee. People on that committee were the town manager, the assistant town manager, me. From the select board, it was Corey Metters. From the FinCom, Stephen Daniel, and from the Affordable Housing Trust, the chair, John Avery. So that was and of course, Lisa Mead, town council. So that was our negotiating team, and we went back and forth over a few months with HAC to try to nail down the kinds of things we wanted in there. I briefly outlined, some of the specific provisions in there. I think the only one that I want to really point out, the only thing that's significantly changed is that the proposal was for 14 units initially. And as HAC was going through its due diligence and they were doing test pits and surveys and refining the site plan, I think they realized that 12 units fit on the site more comfortably, and so they proposed 12 units to the negotiating team. And unanimously, the LDA negotiating team was fine with that. So while the original proposal was for 14 units, the LDA and the final product is proposed at 12 units.
Mr. Metters.
No, I do want to just comment on that, because I do think it was a very good conversation we had with HAC when they came in, because they were the ones who removed or withdrew those 2 units, because we were looking at the site, which they laid out relatively tastefully, but there were circumstances like 1 unit was extremely close to the bike trail in the back. Some of the units were a little bit close, and if you just take away some of the units, you created a better site plan, a little more privacy for some of the adjoining units, a little less cumbersome, encroachment into the bike area. So I think the reduction was basically just to make a better site. And they recognize it. We commented on it, but as something that they kind of initiated, and I think it was we as a group we supported it, and I think it was the right decision to move it in that direction.
Thank you, Corey. I thought the LDA was fine. I had 2 comments or questions. One was the decrease from 14 to 12, and you've addressed it. I mean, I'd like to get as much housing as we could there, but if 12, if in HAC's estimation 12, they're more comfortable with 12. And I do remember the back deck on the west lot was very close to the bike trail. I remember that in the design, but it was probably fairly tight. But the other question I had has been raised earlier in our earlier discussion was, why only 2 for municipal and public employees? just as a general comment or as a sentiment, I would at least like to see 4, and I'm making the number up, but I'd like to see more than 2. I would like to see more than 2, but that's my opinion. Mr. Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Overall, I think the agreement is in very good shape. I do have some proofreading edits that I'll go over in a moment, but I agree with you and with Mr. Smith. I think that the number of units available to municipal employees should be bumped up to 4 or 6. I don't think it should be at 2. I don't think that's sufficient unless there's some demonstrable compelling reason to the contrary that the developer is proposing. I did want to just call to the attorney's attention a couple of things, and I applaud the work of the negotiating team. On page, Lisa, on page 3, if you have the same.
I do. I'm pretty sure I do.
Okay, up at the top, on town approval.
Yes.
These are just typos. Second line, it refers to the school department. You would want to say school district. And then under section 2, this is about 3/4 of the way down. There's an insert paragraph, lowercase I, lowercase 1, Affordable Housing Trust Fund grant. Second to the bottom, second to last line in that paragraph, the second word "and," I think is extraneous. You may want to take a look at that. I think it probably should be deleted.
Yep.
Similarly, on the next page, the third line down, the word "and" at the end of that line should probably be deleted. Then on page 8, the paragraph Roman numeral 4, the second subparagraph in that section, 5th line down, I don't know whether this is correct or not, but it refers to attainable unit. I wondered whether it should also refer to an affordable unit, but I defer to you and the group because I just don't know which is the correct reading of that. In that same paragraph, last sentence refers to the provisions of this item 4D1. That looks like a stray reference or an incorrect reference. I don't know what is meant by that. And then I think I have just 1 or 2 more. Yes, I had a question on page 15. This is under the paragraph 8A, designated developers defaults town remedies. So if the developer defaults, they're supposed to turn over all their due diligence work. I guess my question is that everything that they will have done for us, or are there, is there work product that they've done, that they might have done that's exempted from the requirement to turn everything over to us?
The due diligence work would be their hazardous, for example, like their hazardous material review, a phase 1 or phase 2, depending on what they were doing, any kind of surveys that they might have had done.
Okay.
I don't know that architectural plans would be included in that because I don't think an architectural plan is due diligence. It's development, but it certainly would be survey, title, phase 1 or phase 2 environmental.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. As I said, I think it's a very good document. This is a project that I support enthusiastically. I think it will be very good for the town once we break ground on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Castro, for that close reading. Thank you very much. Any other comments on the LDA? Mr. Smith?
So tell me if it's appropriate to raise that number from 2 to 6.
I think it's appropriate for us to suggest that they raise that from, 2 to some other amount, some other number, whether it's 2, 4, 6, 8, I don't know, but.
I mean, I'm willing to chat about it. I just
Yeah.
thought we could start at 6.
Yeah.
I shared, yeah, it's,
Yeah, that's 50% of the units, which I think is, it's a good gesture, it's a good message. Other thoughts? I would support it, I would support it.
So Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? What
What it
if
means?
there's any impact or what it does mean?
Sure, I mean, I would have to obviously, and I think Peter Freeman is on tonight too. You know, it's not a money issue, right?
Okay.
It's a pool and qualification issue. And so I guess the question is, you know, I suspect that the pool would be large enough. And so I don't think it's an issue because it's still the same qualifications. It's still going to be the same price. That should not be an issue. So I think if you give us a little bit of latitude to work, you know, no less than 4 and maybe up to 6, something like that, then we could go have the conversation with them. But I don't believe we have any legal impediments to doing it.
Okay, good.
Is there a way to write something into the LDA that asks for 6, but then if for some reason we don't have enough qualified applicants in the lottery, then it can go down to however many we have?
Right. So that's what I would want to do. I would say, you know, whatever that number is that we agree with Hack, that we would write the language so that, you know, assuming there's enough participants in the lottery in order to do it, and that they then qualify, because just because you're in the lottery, if you get chosen, then you have to go qualify, and you may not qualify.
Okay.
So if the board was amenable to letting us work that language out, understanding that the goal was 6, no less than 4, something like that, then we could be able to do that.
So I don't know if I would put in no less than, because what if we don't have 4 that qualify? What if you only have 3?
Say up to 6.
Then what do you?
Just say up to 6.
Say up to 6.
Up to 6. And then you got to vet that with Hack. And so if we get 6 applicants that qualify, then we're in. If we get 3, we're in. If we get 4, we're in.
Right.
But I think the message, at least from my understanding of the board's consensus here, the message is we'd like to see more than 2 and like to maximize the opportunity for our local workers as much as we can.
Yeah. So we can draft that language, and then, and I think that would be okay. I don't think that changes anything, assuming that PAC is appreciative of it. I mean, acceptable of it. And then I will also make those other changes that Dean pointed out, and then I would just point out one other change. There's a typo in the first line of the first whereas clause. It should be 2025 and not 2005. Jill pointed that out earlier.
I actually did see that.
what are, Gloria, if I might, what are some, do certain disqualifying things come up in your head that we should be looking at?
What do you mean?
Well, let's say, you know, we adopt this language for 6 municipal employees. What are some disqualifying that we should be thinking about? Disqualifying categories like pay, right, or
It's
income?
always, so the biggest thing is that you have to, when you go into a lottery, an applicant has to obviously fill out the application form, but they also need a pre-approval letter from a mortgage company. It has to be a mortgage that's not FHA, because FHA won't do deed-restricted units. So there's a lot of background information that someone has to provide. They also try to maximize bedrooms. So if you're a single person or a couple, you wouldn't be the top pick for a 3-bedroom, for instance. A 2-bedroom makes more sense. So they maximize bedrooms. You have to be pre-approved. And then once the lottery is held, then they really dig into all of this information to make sure that they're qualified. And some people who have a pre-approval letter, when they dig in, like I said, and we had this happen at 558 Kroll Road, ultimately they don't qualify for whatever reason.
Right. And it's usually a financing reason.
Right.
And sometimes it's, you know, and you can overcome this, but sometimes it's the deposit, right? the additional payment. So you can have a town fund to help pay for first-time home buyers' deposits. So it depends on what it is, but it's typically around financing.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up, I think, a good point is I can see the deposit being an issue. Is there some options that?
So there are actually a lot of options through banks. So banks do special rates and down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. So in the lottery for 558 Kroll Road, we actually had 2 potential applicants who applied to the Affordable Housing Trust before their applications were due for down payment assistance, because 2 people, and actually one of the winners, ended up receiving a down payment assistance grant. But 2 people who wanted to apply went to the bank, and the bank basically said, we can't qualify you for this. If we could qualify you for like this if you had like a $50,000 more for your deposit. And they actually applied to the Affordable Housing Trust for down payment assistance grants, and the trust awarded them. And one of the people who got the down payment assistance grant is actually the lottery winner for 558 Kroll Road. So we have things we can do in-house through the Affordable Housing Trust. That would be for affordable units. Don't think it would be for attainable units, although maybe we could talk about next town meeting, setting aside some attainable housing funds specifically for down payment assistance. That's always an option for those units. There'll be 3 affordable and 9 attainable units. And like I said, a lot of banks offer these things.
Okay, thank you.
Corey?
Just pure curiosity, because I think moving it from 2 to 6, thrilled, I think it's the right decision, but just humor me. So you have more than 6 applicants that qualify. Are we limiting, are we turning people away if we cap it at 6?
Well, they can still go into the lottery for the other units too. So it's not like.
We're not creating a
cap.
cap, yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
That's what I want to know.
Mr. DeCastro?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I was thinking maybe this discussion, at least at the board level, is perhaps concluded. I know we have a member of the public who wants to comment, but in the interest of moving things along, we're being asked to approve the land disposition agreement, and so maybe I will
draft a motion.
Offer a motion to, let me just look at I move to approve and execute the land disposition agreement with Housing Assistance Corporation, HAC, for the sale and development of affordable and attainable ownership housing at the property at 0 Stepping Stones Road, with the qualification that the number of units available for municipal and school district employees be revised to be up to 6 units. That would be the
Second that.
motion. And Mr. Smith is
Second, Mr. Smith?
But you do have a public comment from, I think, Ms.
Okay,
Gates.
yes, Elaine, you have your hand up?
No, I don't, and it's not showing on here that it's raised. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so we have a motion that's been seconded. We will call any other public comment? Mr. Phillips, quickly.
Ryan Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I think it should be capped at, 2, because there's a much larger workforce and people that are looking at those houses. Thanks.
Okay, I didn't understand. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll take the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. Good job, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
so
job.
much.
Good job. Progress. Good progress.
Mr. Chairman, there's a second part to this agenda item, which is the letter of endorsement. Do you want to take that up now?
I would, and I would entertain a motion, to be honest
It's pretty
with you.
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
So I move to approve and sign the letter of support for HAC's project eligibility letter application to the EOHLC.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
I had
One question?
I had one question.
Yep.
On page 2 of the letter, third line down, the proposed project is an appropriate density for the neighborhood and fits very well within the existing development patterns in our town. I'm not sure that we should be saying that. I don't know that it's an appropriate density. We've talked about it, but we have gone down to 12, and it fits very well within the existing development patterns in our town. I don't even like the existing development patterns. So
Difficult to write a letter of support saying we don't think it fits.
no, we could just take it out and say nothing.
So there are certain things that you have to hit for this application to be deemed by the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities as, site, to get their site approval. So it has to be that that the town supports it, that the density's fine, that town departments want to work with that. All of these things are really things that you should say as a way of confirming your support in all areas that the EOHLC is looking.
Are we predetermining what the regulatory boards are going to be looking at?
Well,
Ms. Mead is shaking her head no. Is that?
Well, you're predetermining it only insofar as you've seen that there are, 6 buildings, duplex units, and they lay out a certain way. Otherwise, you don't take any place of the regulatory boards, and that's made very clear in the LDA.
Okay, that's fine with me. It just, if we don't play any role in that, it looks like we are here in that sentence. So I just see a conflict there. I'm not comfortable with that sentence, but I'm hearing two things.
This is just to the EOHLC, so that they
Right.
say that this is, really, it's to say that the site is appropriate for the development that's proposed. It doesn't bind the ZBA in any way. The ZBA can cut the number of units, they can, I hope they don't. I don't know why that popped out. They can
Give 'em an idea.
change the layout, they can add more parking, this has nothing to do with the ZBA.
All right, well, I'm not going to, one thing I have learned in my 15 months on this board is these details come back to haunt us. I hope you're right. I'll withdraw my objection. We'll see where it ends up.
Mr. Castro.
I'll offer the comment that I think, and I'm okay with the sentence, and I respect Stuart's view on it. I think anybody who wants to make an issue of it in front of the ZBA can show this letter to the zoning board, and the zoning board can do whatever it wants with it. But either way, I wanted to just mention one thing. I know we have a motion and second. I missed this earlier. I wanted to call it to the attention of the town council. On the LDA, the signature line refers to the Town of Chatham Affordable Housing Select Board. So I'm not sure isn't it the select board that signs this?
It's just the
So we want to
select
correct
board.
that.
Yeah, it's the select board,
Okay, thank you. So there's a
Good
motion.
catch. Yep, motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. Thank you very much. Again, good job. Good job. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the update on the wood waste reclamation facility operated by T.W. Nickerson, Inc. This is an agenda item request by Mr. Smith and Mr. Dykens. Kind of get an update. This is to use a double negative. This is given the memo that Lisa, I think, or the Talaman Group wrote. This is not uncomplicated to use a double negative. But anyway, I know it was Liz, I think, that wrote the memo. But anyway, Mr. Berman, why don't you take it away? And I think it's a good thing that we're taking a look at this now rather than a couple of years from now.
Yes, happy to. Greg Berman, your Director of Natural Resources. So I just have a few slides to kind of set the stage in addition to the Select Board Agenda Report. And I've been, invited out to see the facility a few times by Mr. Halpel, who's here in the audience tonight and might be, willing to say a few words or answer questions as required. So this is one of the site plans that we were able to locate, indicating the stump dump in yellow and the business in pink. I call out those two because they're two separate leases to T.W. Nickerson. Here they are kind of on an aerial image to kind of get a feel for what is going on in each one. When we talk about the stump dump, it's really that area over to the west. And that pink line kind of along the edge is the border with Harwich. So it's 3 parcels, And these parcels were specifically called out in Article 15 of that 2007 annual town meeting. And I'll cover some of what is discussed in that. But just kind of wanted to go through a timeline first. It did take me a while to figure out the various leases and whatnot, but just kind of walking us through it. Back in 2002 is when T.W. Nickerson first got a lease with the property, and that was with the previous owner of T.W. Nickerson, Stephen Clark. In May 10th, 2007, that lease was amended. So instead of going through 2011, it got extended to December 31st, 2029. A short few days after that is when it went to town meeting. Article 15 of that town meeting authorized the purchase of the property using Article 97. And that particular term is going to come up several times and was mentioned in the town council memo. And I did say the vote stipulates terminating the leases, the owner will remove all structures in this area, will return to open space. That exact language is from the explanation, not the motion. The motion does mention the Article 97, and I'm sorry, there's one more part to it. The fact that it's enabling the Conservation Commission and Board of Selectmen, so it was called at the time, to grant a perpetual conservation restriction on that property. So this is 20 years ago. And then just a few months after that, the town did purchase the property from the owners and then continued with those leases. The town did not do a separate 30B procurement for those leases. It just kind of assumed them from the previous property owner. In 2021, there was a transfer of ownership of T.W. Nickerson from Stephen Clark to Peter Hopple. At that point, they came to the select board just to kind of affirm that the leases would transfer, and that was voted by the select board at the time. So where we are right now is on December 31st, both the leases are slated to expire. Mr. Hopple has gotten in touch with town staff, indicating his preference to extend those leases. And this is just a quick look through some of the Google Earth images. This is back in 1995, 2007, so this is about when the town was purchasing the property. 2010, 2012, you can see a lot of activity. 2016, 2018, 2021, this is about when Mr. Hopple takes over the property. And when we advance to current, I'm going to just kind of show where to look. So that's the area where you're going to see most of the change. So if you go onto the site, it's tens of feet of historic stump dump. This is material that has been kind of ground up and excavated and reused over time. There is still some quantity of material left that hasn't been quantified really well since 2007. So this is the quantification of that by, I believe this was Eldridge and Greenseal, that did a volumetric analysis that showed about 81,000 cubic yards have been removed, and that was about 23% of the overall removal requirement.
When was that done, Greg?
2007.
I'm sorry, when was that done? I wasn't on mic. 2007, that is?
Yes, yeah.
Those other slides showing the property over time were very good.
Oh, good, good.
Very good.
It was,
yeah. How did you get them?
that's just on Google Earth.
Google
Just
Earth?
online. You can take screenshots and kind of implement them over time.
Going back that many years?
Yeah, 95 was the first really usable one that you could take a look at, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're 23% of the way there in 2007. We do have an agreement with Greenseal Environmental, who is has already done the survey. We should have the results in the next couple of weeks. And that's kind of one of the steps along the path, is to quantify how much cleanup has occurred, how much is left to go to, reach the 100% cleanup as of December 31st, 2029. So that's what's stipulated in the lease. And I just put a few things up here that, according to the leases, TW Nixon is responsible for removal of the raw materials and to create a grade acceptable to DEP. The idea was to reduce materials an average of 4% per year, but that language was actually there decades ago. So I think, you know, we don't have between 2007 and now. Just looking at the aerials, it looks like most of it has happened more recently than in the past. But, you know, we'll have a better number going forward and come up with a plan to try to see how full reclamation can happen. And then these additional surveys are at the leaseholder's option and expense. So that is paid for by the town. That was part of the lease that we assumed. I believe our current one is about $5,000 or $6,000. So we'll probably need to do this one, maybe another couple as we go forward, just to document. But it's going to calculate, you know, the percentage of buried stumps, the material that's reclaimed, and then an estimate of time to actually do that. So, you know, as of right now, this is my last slide, but I did want to mention, you know, I've talked to the DPW director, Rob Faley, and there is certainly interest on the town's part. Like, if a large storm were to occur, you know, where is all that brush and debris going to go? I think we got a little taste of that over the winter storm. That a lot of that material did go to this facility, and that's, you know, not a hurricane. So it's those things that we're trying to wrap our heads around. You know, this was fairly well documented and signed off 20 years ago by the town. And that's kind of the route that town staff has been following. That was the will that we have seen. It's exceptionally difficult to take land out of Article 97. And I think the town memo does cover that a little bit. Perhaps town council could opine on that a little bit for us. But yeah, that's where we are right now. Moving forward, we don't see great options for being able to extend, but yeah, if there's questions, happy to try to answer.
I'm sure we do. This is actually pretty interesting. DEP, from DEP's perspective, and this is for town council and for everybody, you know, from their perspective, Greg, town council, what would they like to see happen at the end, December 31st, 2029? According to the law, what would they like to see happen, or Chapter 97? That it would be back to farmland or whatever, or graded off and planted, or back to return to nature? Is that what they're looking for? Do I understand that correctly or not?
Well, I would let Greg answer specifically what DEP says, but the lease says, which I presume was done pursuant to the DEP requirements,
Right.
is that all materials shall be properly reclamated and removed off the premises by the end of the term of the lease. So that's from a DEP stump perspective. From a Article 97 perspective, it would be the same, that this is actually usable open space consistent with the town meeting vote. So it's a pretty hard stop.
I'm speechless. I have been up there. I mean, and Mr. Hopple, you're welcome to please come to the podium as well, if you might, because you're still accepting debris. I'll wait till you get up to the podium.
And just that DEP reference, a lot of it has to do with just that, you know, if the leasee has to leave, they don't just leave a big hole behind.
Right.
It's graded out nicely.
Right. So, but you're still doing business there. You're still accepting building debris and other debris, landscaping debris, et cetera? And you're still accepting it into the landfill, if you will, into the stump dump and using it?
Yes, we're still doing it. We, in the last weather event was a really big one for us. We took all of the wood waste from the Chatham DPW and for the first 2.5 months after the storm from the Orleans DPW, as well as all of the homeowners and contractors that were doing the cleanouts. I estimate that we took in around 45,000 cubic yards of raw material in trucks, which equates to roughly 2,200 dump trucks worth of stuff. We've now processed that into about 18,000 yards through sizing it once, and we'll be able to sell most of that material in the next year through next spring. That will probably last us for our mulch suppliers and other avenues that we have to get rid of it, and then a lot of it ends up composting.
Right. So are you, I guess you want to extend the lease, but are you preparing in part at all for departing in December 31st, 2029, or what are your thoughts?
I've been focused on the reclamation of the old stump dump since I've been there, and I'd be more than willing to show anyone who wants to come see what's actually going on, because we've removed quite a bit of material from the site. Basically there's 30 or 40 feet of old stump dump, which, I guess it was a sand pit at one point in time. They dug all the sand out and just started running stumps and brush in there. So we're, with the stumps, with the old stumps, we basically pick all the big logs out of them, and then we use the loam attached to that, and then we let the stumps dry out and we grind them into mulch. So, if you look at these photographs, which don't really do it justice, it's tough to see the actual elevations, but, we've gone back a good 300 some odd feet, 40 feet up, and, managed to reclaim that area essentially, I guess. I do, whether or not it's me there, I do think that this facility is pretty important for a lot of people around here, being that there's just a lot of material that goes through there, and just to be clear, when we said building debris, we don't take C&D type material. We just take crushed concrete, and we crush the concrete and make it into road base, and building material that has to do with earth moving is basically what we take in.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sure others have questions here. Mr. Smith, and then we'll go around the table.
I'm probably speaking to the choir on the board, but this is quite an operation. It's not minor. We've lost Dubus's pit. We lost McIntyre. This is it. This is the only one left, and I think the closest next one is going to be Dennis. Am I right? Is that S&J?
Cape Sand and Recycling on Freeman's Way stopped taking wood waste last winter sometime. So that was the next closest one. There's a guy in there's a guy in Eastham that takes it, and then the 3 or 4 people on Great Western Road take it.
How many acres? I'm sorry, it's probably contained here, but how many acres? 10 acres?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And how much, do you remember how much we paid for this, or did you see documentation?
It's nothing.
I forget.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, I'm looking at the $600,000 from, and so you had $600,000 from the land bank receipts and $1,625,000 from a borrowing. So $2.2 million-ish.
So this place shuts down 2029. I'm really hoping that we could find alternatives to this, because I think that would be a tragedy. There's a lot of local businesses and folks that use this from Chatham. And I fail to see, I get the process under Article 97, but I fail to see how this is going to be better for the environment to be moving this material. Where we're going to move it to, and it's going to go to the transfer station where we're going to have to move it several times. It becomes very inefficient, other than what's going on now at this facility. So, is there any, not knowing the process intimately, is there opportunity for DEP to reconsider now that we're 20 years later and the options have dwindled? And it's easy to say no to folks like this, but I think we're doing ourselves in here.
Well, I think that's a question for Lisa.
Yeah, so I'm listening to this and, I didn't do the original opinion on it, but I'm going to throw out some ideas, unchecked ideas, which is probably a really bad idea. But it's possible that if the facility could be smaller than the 10 acres, right? So you could reduce the size of what you need in footprint, understanding the necessary service it provides to not only Chatham, but the region, it sounds like, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And particularly in addressing emergency situations after storms and whatnot. And make the case that, and maybe it's through special legislation, where it's one of a kind of thing, you do want to exchange some of the Article 97 land, it would require you to find replacement land. So you'd be required to find replacement land of whatever smaller area. So let's say you retained 3 acres or 5 acres. I don't know what the layout is, but you figure out how to close most of it, retain a portion of it, be allowed to do that and do an exchange for the Article 97 purposes, which would be other land that you have that's not currently designated as open space. So you can't take land that's not, doesn't have a conservation restriction on or whatever, that's already designated. So it has to be some land that you own that is general municipal, or you have to purchase it. And that would be the exchange. And then, in addition to that, talk about some exceptions under 30B. I don't know that we could get an entire exception under 30B, but certainly you can go out to bid to get the services that you want, right? So when the contract comes up in 3 years, you figure that out. But you would have to do this through special legislation. It would have to also go through the Article 97 review process. But I think there's an argument to be made based upon what I just said that potentially gets you there. And if you start now, you're 2.5 years away from the deadline.
Ms. Mead, thank you. And I think I saw at least some of that in the write-up on the agenda report. And here again, we're just spitballing, but let's say we wanted to extend this lease for 20 years. I'm just picking numbers. And we're gonna say it's 10 acres, but we think we can use 5 for the next 20 years for this Chatham, but certainly regionally used dwindling resource. The replacement property, would that be replacement property for 20 years, or is that replacement property in perpetuity?
Forever.
Yeah,
It would be forever.
Yeah, see, that seems somewhat draconian, but whatever. All right, let's just say we can live with that. I don't know. Is there 5 acres somewhere that is general government that we could designate as open space? We'd have to find that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously you can do just about anything through special legislation. And then the argument in your example would be that in 20 years, nobody's going to need to dispose of their materials this way, and we're going to give you this 5 acres back, right? I don't know what the likelihood of that is. Those are the kinds of things that they try to avoid. So that's why you're going to need to designate the other parcel in perpetuity as your Article 97 land.
And that could be a multitude of parcels throughout the community, or does it just have to be one contiguous?
No, it could be a couple of parcels to make up the same acreage. It would have to be, and this is where you have an advantage, it would have to be as good as or better than the ecological or environmental benefits of the existing parcel, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's an easy one. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, there's some promise.
Yeah, yep. Mr. Metters and then Mr. Nacastro.
Okay, just a couple of thoughts, because, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in that area. I've growing up and dumping stuff and going to get my mulch and dumping brush and whatever. But to scale it back, it seems to be, I don't want to see this facility shut down myself, because I think if it does shut down, our transfer station cannot handle that workload. It can't. It's no way, shape, or form. It'd be a nightmare and a half. But the way the facility is set up, you got, the business area, then you kind of go further back, you get the residents on the left, and then basically you got the loop road. So that's a pretty vast area. I mean, my opinion is the back area seems to be a little more cleared out. You've kind of cleaned that up and brought it back a little bit. But that's in the further back. So if we were to, keep that in play, where's the access going to come from? Because you're still going to have to go through a business area, commercial area. There's a lot of logistics on this. This is not going to be an easy ask.
That's what I said.
I mean,
It's not
that's
uncomplicated.
But that's a separate lease, the business area? Same
Well,
company?
you get through the business lease. You drive through the road, you got the scale, you got the house,
Right, yeah,
you
yeah.
got all the bins with the mulch.
Yep.
But then the stump dump, you go a little bit further up, and then there's I don't know how many residents are on the left-hand side, but basically the access road kind of loop,
Right.
that's a big old loop. And
Yeah,
you can, go right and go up the hill and then dump your brush over and then run around and, that's just one big loop.
We can solve that, I believe. Access should be solvable, since that business area is going to remain.
I'm talking about if the leisure activity that's going to be created, how is that accessible?
Oh, well, from the south, I guess, I don't know.
Mr.
Greg?
Berman.
I mean, that's one of probably 100 things and 1,000 things we haven't thought of, but there is an easement running through this property for the property owner in Harwich. So, I mean, there is kind of an access road through there that's not part of the parcels that are part of this 97.
Mr. Hoppel, would your preference would be to extend the lease for the business and the stump dump as well?
Yes, yes, I mean,
And how long, just, we're spitballing again, as Mr. Smith said, how long a lease are you looking for?
I mean,
it's
like,
expire in 29.
personally, as long as possible, this is my business,
This is your
but, I hate.
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
Young family, though, I gotta keep working.
A young 50. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Berman.
Just while we have town council on, like, I personally have not tried to take a property out of 97. I don't know how long that takes.
Forever.
I don't know if that's, we've got December 31st, 2029, kind of a deadline. That, can we feasibly get there through 97? But also, that's when the lease ends. The town would have to go through 30B and probably do an advertisement. If it's a long enough lease, it would have to go to town meeting. So that even if we take it out of 97, there's not necessarily a guarantee that it could be you. It would just be potentially up for bid and RFP.
Correct. Lisa?
Right. Yeah, so the answer is, it does take a long time to go through Article 97, but not an inordinate amount of time, right? So go through this new process, first of all, to get sign-offs on all the various departments, and then jointly file the special legislation. So there's going to be a lot of work to do to get that done and to convince DEP that this is the right thing to do. And then it goes to the legislature. So you have to have your ducks in a row to do that. You have to have the replacement land, you have to identify what portion of this is gonna stay, out of Article 97, what portion is gonna stay in Article 97. I think you are gonna have to go out to bid. I mean, you can file a special legislation to exempt from 30B. I have done that before, and you can do it in very unique situations. But also, I think this is kind of a unique project. And so even if you went out to bid, how many people are going to bid on it, right? That's
Right.
one of the questions, right? So the question is, how much do you throw into the special legislation to jeopardize what you're really looking for? But that's a decision for you to make. And then, of course, town meeting would have to approve the special legislation, the home rule petition, before you send it in anyway. So they would approve a longer-term lease at the same time.
So can we work as a consensus, as a board, work from the notion that our preference is to extend the lease to this outfit, to Mr. Hoppel and TW, or another bidder? I suspect there aren't going to be too many folks bidding on this, but can we come to a consensus that that's what we'd like to do? Because I believe that it does provide an invaluable service to the town and to residents of the town, and we'd be lost without it. And Corey makes a great point, and it's true, the transfer station would be overwhelmed. It would not be able to handle the volume, would not be able to handle it. So I think, do we have consensus on that? So the charge now would be to figure out how we deal with 97 going forward, assuming that we want to extend some portion of this property in a longer-term lease beyond December 31st, 29, and how do we most expeditiously get there? And we're going to need town council, we're going to need a working group, to be honest with you, because this is all full of stuff. We're going to need some kind of, we're going to need an article in the next town meeting, I think, or I don't think we can wait to 28. We got to have something ready for 27. I don't know, I'm making it up, but this is very unique, by the way. This is not something we deal with every day. But Mr. Nicastro.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. Is the stumps that you're removing, are they hazardous? Is there anything hazardous in that material to the?
I don't think so. It's all organics. I mean, I'm really actually surprised at the lack of other debris I've found in there. You know, as we're digging in there, I certainly expected to find more car parts or pieces of rusty stuff. And I mean, I can count on my fingers the amount of, you know,
I asked the question because
tires that I found.
I wonder why the DEP is so concerned about it. I mean, if it's biodegradable material, you just cover it over with loam.
I think that they would. That's why I think that they may be amenable to this when they look at the region
Well,
as a.
Go ahead,
DEP classifies stumps differently than they do compost piles, for example, or leaf piles, or, you know, trees. They classify stumps closer to hazardous material. I don't know why, but there is a different classification on stumps.
Okay. Well, I think that, you know, enough has been said to make the case that this is a very unique situation, and it has an economic impact, not just on Chatham, but on the region. And
an environmental one.
An environmental one.
We're going to be moving this material 47 times.
Exactly. And, you know, it would seem to me that the town needs to begin moving very quickly to come up with a proposal, working with town council, along the lines the chair has suggested. We need to get our legislative delegation involved in this early on, so they're not just facilitators, but advocates for whatever we come up with. I will just make one historic comment. It's easy to make comments in hindsight. But in 2007, when the town acquired this, at the recommendation of the Committee on the Open Space and Land Bank Committee, and you know, they had a charge and they were fulfilling it. But, you know, now we have a problem historically because we declared all this property, specifically Article 97 property. So, you know, it should be a bit of a caution for us going forward in other venues. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Berman, you had your hand up.
And I just wanted to follow up. When I was growing up in a state other than this, we had a stump dump miles and miles away. It caught fire, and it could not be put out for many, many years. So I think that is one of the hazards of a stump dump. That's probably one of the things DEP is looking at. But I also wanted to clarify, you know, part of the lease payments that come in from T.W. Nickerson get spent for groundwater testing that is provided to DEP to allow these operations to continue.
And we're near the well. We're near some wells.
10 and 11.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Ms. Potash.
So I agree with everything that's been said, and I think we should try to aim to keep this out of an RFP so that this gentleman doesn't have to worry about, you know, his future. And it's a way to treat, you know, local businesses appropriately. And I commend everyone for bringing this forward, not in the nick of time, but in an ample time. And I look forward to seeing what kind of rabbit council pulls out of her hat for this. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Potash. Any other comments or questions? So Jill, I think it's back to us to get something cooking here. And, you know, honestly, time is kind of the essence. I really think we need to have something prepared for the annual meeting next year in 27 or earlier if need be. But this is as unique as it gets that I've seen in my career.
Even if there was a fall town meeting, I don't know if there is one.
Yeah,
talking
that's what I
about-
just said.
Oh, I thought you meant,
If there was a special.
I thought you meant spring, but okay.
Yeah, if there was a
Yeah, I
special
agree.
word in that, then
As
we'd
soon
have,
as we-
but I think we have an awful lot of work to do. I think town council has work to do. I think we have some brainstorming to do. We have to figure out if we have other land, whether we can enumerate some of this land as still open and available for recreation, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
I have some suggestions on the land, but might not go over well.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, and as do I. I mean, I'm pretty much familiar with every parcel we own in this town.
Can't help myself.
All right.
Peter, thanks for bringing it to my attention when I was.
Thank you very much. If
Coming
anyone
forward.
has any questions, I'll call your office with my cell number, and if anyone ever wants a tour or anything to see what we're doing, I'm happy to facilitate that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Peter.
I used to go up to the pig farm at Nickerson's up there and have some fun. Okay. Yep.
I just have a question for the board.
Yep.
This was the last item we had Lisa participating. I didn't know if the item on citizen petition, did you also want town council participating? If not, we can let her go.
You know, I wouldn't mind having town council here for that discussion. Would you like to elevate number E over the Riders Cove culvert? Although I want to hear about the Riders Cove culvert, and Mr. Berman is here. But anyway, why don't we go to citizens petition process and procedure, which is business agenda item number E, and Lisa, please stick around. This is an agenda item request by Mr. Smith and Mr. Dykens, and Shauna will be here as well. I'll tee it up a little bit, and then Stuart, you chime in, please, and just looking to get more of a streamlined and process and procedure for a citizens petition, and understand what the role of our either local moderator and/or town council is or isn't with respect to those citizens petitions, is where I'm coming from. We have a form as well that's been presented in the package that the clerk and the executive office, Jill's office, is looking for some guidance. So I thought we'd start there, and Stuart, I'll turf to you, and then I know Dean has some thoughts as well, and I'm sure Randy does as well, and Corey, so.
Sure.
Off to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
So I had asked this back in May. This has kind of taken on a mind of its own because my original agenda request was simply to chat about the whether it was appropriate for a citizen's petition to ask town council to opine on the legality of the citizen's petition, not a regular article for town meeting, but a citizen's petition designed specifically to go around this board. That's the intent of the whole citizen's petition. The citizens, a group of 10, have decided that they don't like the action of this board, and they have the right to petition their legislature, and this is the process by which they do that. And my concern is that when we ask for the town council to opine, that it kind of taints or throws cold water on that process because, you can ask 15 different lawyers the same question, you might get different answers, and this one would be for town council. So is that appropriate that town council, instills a chilling effect on that process? And I don't think that that's something that it was designed for when it was originally, the citizens petition was originally conceived. I did ask for the legislative history of this. I haven't seen that on this citizens petition specifically. My guess, I don't know, we have a couple of attorneys here, but, well, we have more than a couple attorneys, might opine on what the state constitution, how they reference the citizens petition, if at all. But I do think we should be careful, because I just want to reiterate that this citizens petition is specifically designed to go around this board, and I don't think we should be stepping in the way of that. They should have easy, complete, and unfettered access to the legislature, and if it gets to town meeting, which it has to, we have to put it on the warrant, citizens petition. If it gets to town meeting and a legislature, one of the members of town meeting, or the board had a question of town council at that point, I'm not sure I would object to that, because at least the process has played out. There hasn't been any undue influence on the petition before it gets to town meeting. So that was really, I had some other thoughts, but I'll wait to hear from my fellow board members on that. I think the form, frankly, is a trivial issue. I'm not even sure what it's doing before the board. I do not know of another instance where a form of town government, like a paper form that somebody's going to fill out, comes before this board for a debate. So I don't know how that got mixed in with this, but I don't think it's appropriate. We've had a long-standing form. We can revise that if the government feels that's appropriate, but I'm not interested in changing what we have historically used for decades now. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nacastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just say as to the form, we have two forms, one the town clerk has and one the town manager's office has. I think there should be one form. It should be simpler than what we're seeing. And I don't know what the word actionable means. I suspect that was put in there by a former town council. And maybe in the mind of that town council, I don't know, I wasn't around back then, it referred to legal viability of the document. Let me say a few things, and I respect Stuart's opinion, but the warrant that goes to town meeting is the select board's warrant. It's not the warrant of any other body in town. Town meeting is purely a legislative body. Town meeting doesn't run the town. The select board runs the town with the town manager. I personally think that even though there seems to be some legal precedent for select boards to deny placement of a petition article on the warrant, there's a case that's in the packet that was provided by Mr. Tallerman to that effect. I personally believe that any petition article that is submitted should go on the warrant, and the select board should not remove it or deny its placement on the warrant, except if the article contains salacious, defamatory language or calls for a criminal act or something similar to that, which I've never seen. I suspect that is the opinion of our current town moderator. I know I've had conversation with him about this in the past. Other moderators may feel differently. Having said that, I think all petition articles should be reviewed in advance by town council for potential legal infirmity prior to the vote that this select board has to take on whether to recommend the article to town meeting. I don't want to be making votes in the dark. I don't think ignorance is bliss. I think it would be important and useful for members of the Finance Committee, who also are supposed to make recommendations to town meeting, to know whether there's a potential legal issue. And I think it certainly is important for the voters at town meeting to know that. I requested an opinion of town council on an article that was in the warrant this year, and I specifically made it public, made sure it became public, because I wanted the voters to know about it. I don't think it provides a chilling effect. Town meeting members, town meeting voters, select board members, finance committee members can deliberate, consider or not consider, and even reject the opinion of town council, which could very well be wrong. And we had an instance of this, in my understanding, some years ago with the formula business bylaw. My understanding is that historically town council, and I don't know whether that was a petition article, I suspect it was, town council at the time advised that it was legally infirm. But town meeting voted it in anyway. It went to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General approved it. That's my understanding of the history of that. So there's an example that disproves the chilling effect of this. I think when town council reviews these articles, if he or she determines that there's a potential legal issue, he or she should inform the select board promptly through the town manager and issue a written opinion that is well articulated and well reasoned, so the select board can have that information when we make our recommendation to town meeting. I'll say one other thing. Regardless of whatever policy this board might want to approve or not approve, I personally believe that I, as an individual member of this select board and any other member of this board, can ask for a legal opinion of town council anytime. I've asked for multiple opinions in my almost 12 years now on this board. And if I see a petition article coming forward that I think is problematic from a legal standpoint, and I have some expertise because I'm an attorney, I'm going to request that opinion. And when the opinion comes in, whatever the conclusion is, I'm going to ask that it be made public, because I don't want uninformed voters making decisions for the town. That's my opinion. So I think the process is fairly simple. Everything should go on the warrant. Town council should review them and provide information to the various bodies of the town, starting with the select board and the town manager, when, in some instances, he or she believes there is a legal impediment, and it may not be. I've disagreed with town council's opinions from time to time. I've honored them. Sometimes I think they're a bit too timid. But those are my thoughts on it, and I don't think it's a bad process. I'll close by saying I come from the experience of having been city solicitor of a significant municipality in this Commonwealth. In a city, the legislative body is not town meeting, it's the city council. I attended every meeting of the city council and every committee meeting of the city council. They wanted to know my opinion of various items that were on their agenda. Now, it's different in that in a city, ordinances, which are comparable to bylaws, don't go to the Attorney General. They only go to the Attorney General from a town. And by the way, the argument that, well, let's let the Attorney General deal with this, only applies if the petition article calls for a bylaw change. If the petition article calls for some sort of contractual or financial commitment on the part of the town, and there's no opinion of town council, and there is always there could be the prospect of legal exposure or legal liability to the town for the town meeting to have taken that action. So I'm in favor of information, transparency, and well-informed voting. So, and I respect what Stuart's saying. I don't want to interfere with the right of people to make their petitions to the legislative body of the town. They have that right under state law, and that should be sacredly honored. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nacastro. Any other comment from board members here? Ms. Potash?
I mean, I wanted to comment on the forms. I think that they should be simple and we should only have one.
Yep.
And we're not going to necessarily draft that today at this meeting, but I do think that we should only have one. And I think it should just be suggested that people utilize, go through the town administration to facilitate, if they would like to. They don't have to, but just for their best results. I also think that I would not want to vote whether or not I think an article should go on the warrant, no, not go on the warrant, whether I'd recommend it without town council's opinion, because I do think that sets us up for some legal ramifications, especially if it's not going to go to the Attorney General in the long run. But I do think, like Dean said, everything should go on the warrant.
Yep.
That's fine. And we could talk about the legalities after it's already on there. So that's the way I look at it.
Mr. Meadows?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I mean, I complete respect for what Stuart is trying to bring up for conversation, and I understand, I understand some of it, but I have some questions, because our citizens petitions that are brought forward, they come from, sometimes it's just a single individual doing everything on their own. Sometimes it's a group of people that are collaborating with different backgrounds that may have a legal background, may have a certain specialty, that bring it forward. Some people have reached out to staff and I said, hey, can you clarify this? I'm sure people have reached out to our town council before to ask for guidance on, this is what I want to bring forward. So, we have all these resources, staff, to our town council to help the citizens petition. But once the citizen petition is verified as far as signatures go and qualifies to move forward, the select board absolutely should not be a gatekeeper saying, no, you can't go forward. If it's a certified 10 signatures, that's it. It goes to town meeting, up or down. I have no desire to become a gatekeeper and trying to prevent it. But I do find merit, because the town council opinion is not just for the select board, it's also for all the voters, because, a lot of people who attend town meeting, some are very well informed of what's going on, and some are kind of just on the floor learning all the details. So I'd like to have that town council opinion ahead of time so people can kind of process it. And if they have a question about it at town meeting floor, they can press it a little bit further instead of having that discussion strictly at town meeting floor. So I think there is some merit having town council opinion ahead of time, just on like any other article. And I don't think it's onerous. I do think it's beneficial. And, with respect, I mean, we have a couple of councils in the room right now. It is a professional opinion. We have to trust our town council. We put a lot of merit into their opinion and their guidance for us. And I think that it's something that is part of the process that is beneficial to us when we finally make the recommendation on a citizen's petition. So I feel a little bit differently than Stuart. I have a lot of respect for his position on it completely, but I have a little bit of a different twist on it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Metters. I do think that a better informed select board and a voting public is enhanced by having the information or the opinion of town council. We vote on citizens petitions, as does the finance committee, and I would think that both bodies, well, I think this body would want to have town council's opinion as part and parcel of making a decision on a recommendation, number one. Number two, I think the voters at town meeting are better informed. They may disagree, but they're better informed if town council has weighed in and they're informed as to his or her opinion. So I think we're better informed, and we're going to make better decisions if we're better informed. May not always agree with town council, but I think that it's value added. That's one of the reasons why they're there. I also I think town council's opinion for the folks at town meeting is extremely helpful, especially if they find there are legal infirmities with a citizen's petition. It could potentially save time of many other parties, including the AG's office. If our voters are informed as to that something, a citizen's petition has infirmities that are likely to not be upheld by the AG, it may sway some votes and save time. I want to be as efficient as we can with everybody's time, our citizens, the AG's office, and us in the Finance Committee. So I think the process of having town council have an opinion, I agree 100% with what Mr. DeCastro said earlier. And we put every single citizen's petition that's been approved by the clerk, and the signatures have been approved on the warrant, for better or for worse. So those are my thoughts, and I agree 100%. I really think that I actually agree adamantly with that position. Mr. Nicastro.
Mr. Chairman, not to put anybody on the spot, but I guess I am. I noticed the moderator is online. I don't know if he has any thoughts.
Yeah.
The town clerk is also online.
Mr. Litchfield, good evening. Any thoughts regarding this? And I would like to know, I know that historically, sometimes folks have come to you just to kind of have you review the form and format, if you will, and the nature of the petition. So a little comment there would be helpful, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's obviously it's been a long evening for you, so I'll try to be relatively brief. Plainly, there should be one form, and that's a simple matter. As Ms. Pothouse said, it's not going to be resolved tonight, but I'm sure that the town clerk and town manager's office can work together, and I'd be happy to assist. Under the statute, as several members, Mr. Nicastro and others have said, any citizen petition article which has 10 signatures has to go on the warrant. Interestingly, there's been a position for the last number of years that there's something magic about the language, and if there's a typographical error, it can't be changed. What the statute actually says is that the subject matter, not the article as written, but the subject matter shall be inserted. And I think there's sort of a fear of a slippery slope, but I think that citizens who exercise their rights to petition town meeting for an article or for a vote, I think it would be helpful if they had a resource, other than the moderator. I'm a lawyer, but as we know, there are a dime a dozen, there's at least 20 cents worth in this room. It would be useful if citizens petitioners had access to town council before getting the signatures. That might preclude legal infirmities, or they might be able to be persuaded that there's a better route to go. So I think that these are fairly small changes, sort of tweaks that can be made to our process. I would hope that, I get a feeling sometimes that, and I don't disagree with Mr. Smith, but entirely, but I'm not sure that citizens petitions are a means of trying to get around the select board. There's perhaps sometimes just things that you haven't yet considered. But if the voters who are active in drafting petitions, they come to me, but again, I'm not town council. If they had access through Ms. Goldsmith's office, that might preclude some problems. Those are a few thoughts again for a late evening. And I'll try to send a memo to the board at some point through the town manager, which sort of explains some of my thoughts further. Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you, Bill. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Mr. Nicastro?
Do you want to ask town council if she has any comments? I know there's a member of the public that might.
Lisa, any thoughts on that? You get such requests from other towns?
So this is a great discussion. This is entirely a policy decision. We have towns that, and I will say most of our towns have us look for legal infirmities in warrant articles and advise select board. I have a couple of towns who don't let us touch articles at all. But those frankly tend to have problems when the motions are presented and things of that nature. So but nonetheless, it's completely a policy question for the board, and we are happy to do exactly what the board would like us to do.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask Lisa this question, and maybe Jill? So I recall around the time we were dealing with our town meeting, I think it was the town of Harwich, and I know Shauna has looked into this. In the Chronicle, they were looking at a process, and maybe even the town of Brewster, to assist citizens in the drafting of their petitions by working with town council. And that would seem to me, Bill suggested that a moment ago, and one way of perhaps facilitating the process and making sure that people feel included.
Yeah, I could say that Brewster has a citizen's guide to town meeting for petition articles. I think it was as recent as January 2025. And many of these citizen guides are listed on mass.gov under the, I think, Secretary of State's page. But nonetheless, we've always welcomed people to come to the town manager's office as a starting point. And I think probably it doesn't happen that often, but probably this last town meeting, the petitioner, we did have them work with town council, not on a policy issue, but more of the legality or the infirmity of what they were hoping to get approved. So certainly I think it's really worthwhile before someone gets the signatures. So it could be, sometimes we get handwritten citizen petitions that are brought to the office. And again, we'll work with anybody. I don't think anything, regardless of a form or not, is going to really impede someone's access to submit a citizen petition.
I do think that going further upstream, when the motion, if you will, or the sentiment is drafted, to have town council take a look before it even comes to us, I think is probably a really good idea. It's going to save time. It's going to save time. The citizen's petition will result in a better draft, if you will. My thoughts.
What if the citizen doesn't want that?
Then they don't have to do it. They don't have to do it. Randy, please.
Yeah, so currently, our town council has us on the type of retainer where we get a lot of hours a month. But in the event we don't have that opportunity, then are we going to have $500 a month bills from citizens to get help with their citizens' petitions? I mean, we have to think about that if we have a different structure of paying town council. And also, it should never be sent to town council unless the person wants it prior to being placed on the warrant. Those are my opinion. And also, if you look at our charter, 4-7E, it really is incumbent on the town manager to know exactly what's happening with those warrant articles, because she needs to be able to answer to that if anyone asks her at town meeting. So I am in favor of the idea that people start with our town administrator and get the help from different departments if that's what they want. But they're not obligated to do it, and I don't think anything online should say to strongly encourage it. It's just an option that they could take up if they'd like.
Okay, well said, Randy. Thank you. We have a hand up. Elaine Gibbs, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. The select board is the executive branch, town meeting voters are the legislative branch. We all agree on that. Under the bylaws and the charter, the town council works for the select board and the town manager. He does not work for the voter. 10 town council opinions will give you 10 town council different answers. Okay, the select board, as the executive branch, the role of the select board is only to call a town meeting, to place articles on the warrant, with the select board vote included. If that means you want to get an opinion before you take your vote, you can go ahead and do that, in my opinion. But that's where your impact on town meetings should stop. You should not be participating in any discussions, in my view, on town meeting floor. There has been a parade. You have your chance as a select board to make your position known when you put them on the warrant. But after that, by law, that is your only role. We had a parade of select board members going up in addition to their role, a limited role at town meeting, to try and influence the voters. Any attempt to do that, I think, is a separation of powers violation. All citizen petitions do go to the Attorney General for review of any conflict with state, federal, or municipal law. We pay the town council to work against us in this situation because we do pay his salary. And we also pay the Attorney General. I'm not concerned about the Attorney General being bogged down and we're wasting their time. That's their job. We pay for it. We expect them to give it a full review. Anything less is you're working against our right to petition. And there should be no phone calls, which have happened in the past by our town council to the Attorney General's office. There should be no contact at all. This is supposed to be an autonomous process where the Attorney General determines whether or not it is legitimate. And we'll take our chances. We don't want to give up our right to petition. And I think the select board and town manager have overstepped their bounds at previous town meetings, attempting to influence voters. We're not dumb, and we have a right to petition. So I would hope you would not allow any interference with town council once the citizen petition is put on the warrant. And I don't think there should be any participation by the select board beyond their role. They've already had their say. It's our town meeting, not the executive branch. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. That was 3 minutes. Mr. DeCastro.
Mr. Chairman, I feel compelled to respond to some of the points that Ms. Gibbs made. First of all, town council's client is not the select board. We appoint him or her. Town council's client is the town of Chatham. I'm not looking for a town council that's going to tell me what I want to hear. I want town council's advice to be for what he or she thinks is legally in the best interest of the town of Chatham. Secondly, I have an absolute right as a member of this board and as a voter at town meeting to speak at town meeting and say anything I want. I've been doing it for 12 years, and I'm not going to stop. So that's just a totally baseless assertion. Thirdly, not all petition articles go to the Attorney General, only the ones that call for a bylaw change and are voted as such. And finally, as far as town council's approach in reviewing a document and consulting with the bylaws office at the Attorney General's office, that's simply responsible legal review. I don't think we should be circumscribing how town council or any any attorney for the town conducts their services for us. So I just dispute almost everything Elaine just said. I respect her right to say it, but I also respect my right to respond, just as I have just now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
Well, I
DeCastro. Okay, we're going to go. Mr. Ray has his hand up now. Mr. Ray, you'd like to speak?
So, I've learned in the past that I should say what I came to say.
Actually, Mr. Ray, can you identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Chris Ray from North Chatham. So, yeah, I've got to put the specs on. So I'd like to thank particularly Stuart for bringing this matter up. It is an important First Amendment issue. I have, as you know, relevant recent experience from this side of the fence, which should illustrate how seriously the deck can currently be stacked against a citizen petitioner. My recent experience, from my perspective, I grant you, played out as follows. A reasonable agenda item request to address an issue was ignored, and as a result of that, a formal petition was initiated. Town Council slow-walked their actionability review of the petition, amounting to a filibuster. It turns out that this is neither required nor enforceable. And then the full resources of the town and council were deployed to fabricate a grossly misleading legal pretext to manipulate town meeting. So if I take those one at a time, the first is easy to deal with because a little bit of common courtesy would come down very nicely. Removing the unnecessary actionability review would be a good step forward on the second. You are welcome to chase whatever advice you like, but that's advice to you. It's not. And no one can pretend that's advice to the town. The third, which is the resources of the board, is actually the toughest one to deal with. Everything else is process related. But if you're serious about solving this problem, which it seems only Stuart is, it needs to be dealt with. Stuart focused on the heart of it in the town meeting debrief. The very purpose of the petition is to bypass the select board and exercise their First Amendment right to petition their government. The select board already have the luxury of debating all petitions and petitioners in their own public meetings. voting their opinion and presenting their conclusions in the warrant. These are extravagant privileges, ones that we don't share. Any further interference once the warrant is published is an absolute no-no, in my opinion. Particularly egregious examples of such interference would include...
Mr. Ray, we're at negative time here. Please conclude.
Would include calling out dubious and misleading legal opinions and then hawking them around the Attorney General's office before the motion has even been made. Citizen petitions subject to the authority of town meeting need to be allowed to follow their own trajectory to the Attorney General without any further interference from the executive branch.
Thank you very much. Mr. Phillips.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. So I got a citizen petition passed. And I just like to say that the town clerk's office and Mr. Litchfield were instrumental in doing that. They made it very easy for me to do. And if I can get a citizen petition passed, I think pretty much anybody can. And then the other thing I want to touch on, I do think if a citizen petition is harmful, or there are certain cases where the select board should be able to keep it off the warrant. I think you guys should use extreme discretion because you're gonna have to live with the consequences, of keeping it off the warrant. But I think under certain circumstances, the select board should reserve the right to keep certain citizen petitions off the warrant. Thank you.
There's actually some case law with respect to that as well, Mr. Phillips. Mr.
So
Smith.
there's two problems with that and supporting that. One is contained in statute where it requires us to put it on the warrant, any citizen's petition. That seems to be, the case law that I read that was supplied. I'm not sure that issue was resolved. And if it wasn't resolved, well, then the statute seems to me to stand. And the statute clearly says we are required to place it on the warrant.
There's no question.
Okay, well, apparently there was, because we just had a speaker, Mr. Phillips, questioned that. I'm saying we have to put it on the warrant.
We do, by statute.
Well, two things. The second one is contained in the Home Rule Charter. It's not in 4-7, which I think is a misread of 4-7. The Home Rule petition in Section 2-6 specifically deals with warrant articles, and that petition articles are required to be placed on the warrant. So there are two, actually, laws that deal with that. And lastly, I'm not sure we're going to get into the form, but I can outline significant deficiencies in the town manager's form that I'm not happy with. So
Okay,
we can either.
I think we should remand that to the town manager's office and the clerk's office to work it out. That's what I think we ought to do.
Well, what I'm saying is, when there is a remanding to the town clerk's office, it is the town manager's word that will go through, period. Town clerk works for the town manager. So here, hold on a second, I'm not done.
Okay.
The form specifically says, in the town manager's form, is to return it to the town manager's office, not to the town clerk's office for certification of the signatures. So the process is deeply flawed. I agree, we should not have two forms. That's easy. And we should be using the form that complies with the statute, the charter, and history.
And of course, the town clerk has to certify the signatures. Always have.
Well, but if you look at the form, that's not the process they use.
Well, let's make sure the form reads that way.
Okay.
Goodness gracious. Okay. Any motion that anybody would like to forward this evening in terms of the process for citizens' petitions? Mr. Nicastro.
I have no motion because I don't think there's a problem. I think there is a problem with the forms, and they should be resolved, but the process is fine with me.
Ms. Potash.
So maybe we could just ask the town manager to look at the form and come back with something that might go along with what's been said today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's plenty of examples.
You with me? Okay, with us? Okay. Thank you very much for your participation, everybody. Last item in the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I may get bogged down in details, but that remanding doesn't work.
You said initially, Mr. Smith, you said initially you didn't care about the forms. You said that initially in your comment.
That was before this discussion. Now that this discussion is, now I do care about, now I do care about the form.
I think the town manager and the clerk can figure out the right form.
Okay, all I'm telling you,
guys.
all I'm telling you is, if that form does not comply with the way business has been done and the law, I'm bringing it back before this board.
And we would welcome it, Mr. Smith.
I doubt it.
I don't. Last item on our agenda this evening is the appointment of folks to the working group. Oh, the Culvert.
I'm gonna say goodnight to everyone.
Good night, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Take care.
Thanks
All
for your
right, bye-bye.
participation.
My pleasure.
So Greg Berman, your Director of Natural Resources. Considering the lateness of the evening, I just have a very few slides to go over. I mean, this is still a very important topic. Happy to answer any questions. This is the Riders Cove Culvert, which is AKA access to Stillwater Pond, AKA the Herring Run. I have a map of it over here on the left, where the Conservation Foundation property is right on either side of it, and you can kind of see where the water is going under Route 28. It still is going under Route 28, albeit restricted. So this is one where we've been working. The problem has been identified for decades. As of 2022, we actually have some funding from NRCS, the federal agency, to provide design, engineering, and construction. We just got the engineer PAR on board, and that was part of the schedule that I showed. So the total award is $1.8 million, paid for by the federal NRCS program. The engineering is 317, and then the construction and project management makes up the rest of that. Non-federal match would likely come from a 2022 town meeting article, unless we can talk the state into picking up a bit more of that. DOT is a partner. DMF is, I'm sorry.
No, please, go ahead.
DMF is a very big partner. Actually, Brad Chase of Marine Fisheries wrote the fish passage report to kind of help get this process started. We also, have a herring warden, David Peterson, who does monitor and work with our AmeriCorps on an annual basis, usually in March, to clear the herring run. The images are a little dark, but that is the Stillwater Pond access through there, and we'll usually have anywhere up to a dozen AmeriCorps out there at a given time, just really, clearing and allowing the fish to pass. And what we have right now, our surveys have been done. They're still working on the H&H study, but we are on track, or at least we have a schedule and track now. Honestly, I think the schedule might be a little ambitious to be able to do construction before next spring, but at least it's potential. A lot of it has to do with what the construction estimates come back as, and if it's higher than the initial amount, we need to renegotiate with NRCS to see who's paying for what. But a lot of that's going to be after we put the documents out to bid, and we still have to go through permitting and a few other things, but this is what we have so far.
Greg, did you mention your grant that the team recently was awarded?
Oh, yeah. So this is one of 6 projects funded by NRCS. Frostfish Creek is another one, and that's something that we did just receive another $500,000 of engineering and design money for. So that's money that did not need a match and is provided to the Frostfish Creek project. So we have the partners of DOT on that project and similar partners on this project. We also have a few more stormwater related. Frostfish Creek is marsh restoration. This one is fish passage, all of which are kind of under that DER, NRCS, DMF acronym soup. of stakeholders. But, funding has been coming forward for this. Specifically, Frostfish Creek has had a lot of funding come in, and we've been able to offset any non-federal match so far. And that's hopefully my intention moving forward.
So the attention here is on the culvert. It's on underneath the roadway. It's caved in. And the herring have a lot of difficulty, and there are very few herring now that access it. So at one time, an extremely viable herring run for both Stillwater Pond and Lover's Lake. But so, the sooner the better, to be honest with you. I don't know what the state is planning to get in to do construction, but it's pretty much caved in.
Yeah, this is an extremely high priority, not just for the town, but for the state.
Yeah.
This is our herring run.
Yeah, that's the only one we have.
Yeah. And, it's not what we want to have happen. If this were to fully collapse and stop access, potentially state agencies would start butting heads at that point. Does DMF have the power to push DOT to maintain fish passage?
Right.
We don't want to lose a season. We don't want to lose a generation, because that can be incredibly impactful for trying to reestablish herring in the area.
Correct.
So we're moving forward. Hopefully we'll get DOT on board financially. And if not, we have a lot of federal and state partners who are willing to pony up and help us.
Well, DOT's got to do the road work, though, and the culvert work.
Well, right now, they're on the team, but not financially.
Okay.
Although we're trying.
Yeah, okay. Timeline again, Greg, I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still in the design phase. We haven't gotten to the 60%. We're still in the 30% design, so it's a little bit beyond conceptual. Right now, there's an 18-inch culvert that's mostly collapsed. Whether it is 2 4-foot openings, 1 8-foot opening, it wouldn't be as big as the Frostfish Creek, which is more like a 10 or 12-foot opening. This is just really to make it big enough for the fish passage. It's not necessarily to restore full hydraulic flow for salt marsh, although that's a co-benefit.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Greg on the Riders Cove?
Yeah, I have a
reclamation?
couple of questions. Greg, in an effort to try to avoid what went on at the Cedar Swamp half a dozen years ago, it's an existing 18-inch concrete pipe and has been identified, blah, blah, blah. And you had just mentioned it's not to necessarily to enhance the flow, but keep it as presently flowing?
Right, so it's not intended to fully restore hydraulic flow for salt marsh like the other project. This is somewhat that, but more it's just to make sure that the flow speed and volumes are such that it doesn't impede the herring going through.
So at the conclusion, well, are we going to be impacting any private property at all? Or do we know that yet?
We don't know that yet. I certainly don't think so for this project. It's going to be much less, of an opening than the salt marsh restoration. That kind of by definition is expanding salt marsh in some areas. That's part of this H&H study that they're doing a review on. And when they come up with the final sizing is when we see how the flow changes. But as of right now, I'd be very surprised if there were private property impacts. That's not the intention, but it will be reviewed.
Because there is a plan, I haven't seen it, but I've been told there's a plan floating around that, I don't know who initiated it, that addresses this issue, but it impacts private property with structures and additional flooding and things like that. And I just want to kind of avoid what was proposed down at the Cedar Swamp, and we don't get into that sort of problem.
Yeah. So right now, we are having discussions with the property owners at Frostfish Creek, but that's not this project.
Okay. Okay. I'll save my questions.
And we do report on all 6 of these projects in the monthly report.
Right. As you might guess, that would concern, whatever project that would concern property owners if we're going to start building structures on their private property and to prevent flooding and things like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
All set with the update? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Greg. Great job. Keep that energy going. Last item on our agenda is to consider the Chatham representatives to the Monomoy Regional Agreement Working Group. I have a note here that today, for the community members, there are 4 applicants. One is a current employee who lives in Chatham. I know there's, I think one of the things we need to do tonight is to put a time limit on the expressions of interest. This group wants to get together pretty soon, so I think our time is limited, if you will, to a week or so, I think.
I think a week is fine. I mean, I've already seen some names floating out there. They've come through our town website, our email address saying, hey, would I be considered? So I think we're going to get a couple candidates already, so a week? I mean,
And then we
next
have to-
Thursday? I don't know.
And then we should interview, we need to interview.
Right.
All right. So I would say a week. I mean, I think time is of the essence.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll leave it for others to speak for themselves.
And then I just have to report that I know the Finance Committee member is going to be Steve Daniel from Chatham, and then Peter Hughes from Harwich. I was told today that he's been named from Harwich.
So is Stephen willing to do it?
Yes, he is, yeah.
And I think we should appoint him tonight, and we
Okay,
also need to appoint a representative from the Select Board, who I think should be you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, you should probably have a motion then, or have motions.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint you as the Select Board for representative to this group, and Stephen Daniel, Chair of the Finance Committee, as the Finance Committee member.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro? Aye. Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And I abstain. I'll vote for Mr. Daniel. And then let's have consensus on a week. We'll have interviews after the week to keep the community members, put them out there for community membership for
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey.
I was just going to say, and then have the school committee kind of keep us up with
I'll-
the student representatives, to see how that process is going.
Yeah, and I'll be talking to Brad and Steve Duvall and others. Randy, you had a comment?
I was just wondering, are we going to be able to interview the citizens
Yes.
on the 31st, or the next meeting?
I had booked, there's one person not related to this prior to this coming about. I can move that individual and extend the time to start at 4:30 if the
Okay.
select board would like, because we do, like I said, have the 4 initially, and I'm sure after this meeting, there'll be a couple more that come
Okay.
in.
Okay, good. So we should do that. Okay. Final motion of the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Castro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Thank you very much. Good night, Chatham.
Thank you.